Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world, but also to welcome to the programme four exciting, dynamic personalities who've come here to play Just a Minute. And they are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Josie Lawrence, and seated on my left, Stephen Fry and Graham Norton. Please welcome all four of them. And as usual, I'm going to ask them to speak on a subject that I will give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. Beside me sits Hayley Sterling. She's going to help me with a score. She's going to blow the whistle when the 60 seconds are up. And Graham, we'd like you to begin the show this week. The subject, a lovely subject, Wimbledon. Oh. Tell us something about Wimbledon in this game, Graham, starting now.
Wimbledon is a suburb of London. I believe it's not a million miles from Richmond. Well, I suppose it's not a million miles from New York.
Paul.
Reputation of the phrase, not a million miles away from...
How clever of you to spot that.
Yeah. Years of real practice.
You can really play this game.
Yes, I am. One of those things you pick up after 30 years.
Paul, the correct challenge, of course. Wimbledon's with you, and 53 seconds available, starting now.
I lived not far from Wimbledon for a large part of my life. Morden, very near Wimbledon.
There was all over the place.
We can interpret that as hesitation.
Absolutely.
Stephen, you got in, and Wimbledon's still the subject. 48 seconds, starting now.
Underground, overground, wombling free, the wombles of Wimbledon common are we. SW19, is that the ascription correct for that place? I think it is. I've been to the tennis tournament, very lucky in that regard, because it's one of the great sporting events in the world. Sorry. I have to be restarted. Something went wrong.
Paul. Yes, hesitation, right?
Hesitation, I think. Yes.
32 seconds still available, Paul. Wimbledon starting now.
Perry's Movies was a shop in Wimbledon that sold standard 8 films from the silent era, and I was very fortunate to be...
Josie challenge.
Hesitation.
Not quite, no. He was getting close.
I was just trying to avoid the word near. I could see him coming towards me at a rapid speed.
I think I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. And if I can redress the balance later, Josie, I will.
Okay.
So another point to Paul. Wimbledon still with you, Paul. 24 seconds, starting now.
Wimbledon College, the school I went to, it became a comprehensive around 1968, and that was when I joined. And they had a magnificent playing field and a long tradition of rugby, cricket, and all those other sports that you associate with people who've got money. Skiing was something that happened all the time. They brought their own snow in every winter.
Stephen Challenge.
I think we've wandered from Wimbledon if we're skiing. We've listed sports and then we've gone to skiing. And that's
No, but you said this happened at
the
his
school,
school.
Wimbledon.
You talked about his school at Wimbledon.
Yeah,
well,
Wimbledon
maybe
College.
at Wimbledon, but it wasn't Wimbledon School, was it? What was it called?
Wimbledon College.
Was it really?
Comprehensive in 1968.
Oh, yeah, that one.
OK. But Graham's right. It's not a million miles away from the tennis tournament. He's quite right
I
there.
only listen to the words. I don't really listen to what you're saying.
I know.
I wouldn't.
Paul, the correct challenge, of course. He gets another point, and he has 9 seconds for Wimbledon, starting now.
One of the first times I saw a colour television, it was following Wimbledon tennis. Rod Laver was the champion. What a magnificent player he was. His volleying across the net has often been described as some of the...
So Paul Merton, speaking as the whistle when, gained an extra point. And Josie, it's your turn to begin. The subject now is yoga. I don't know whether you're an enthusiast or not, but will you talk on the subject? 60 seconds, starting now.
Oh, getting up at the sunrise, pulling on yoga pants, rolling up the yoga mat, striding purposely across the park to the yoga class is something I have never done. I don't care for yoga because I feel I'm not bendy enough. Once got stuck in the downward dog position for 16 hours. It made mealtimes very messy, especially during the soup course. My 2 best friends are yoga teachers. You know, yoga is a way of life for mind and body. Helps the soul in a meditative way. Vikram yoga is meant to be very harsh. You go into a hot room where you sweat and sweat and put...
natural figures of speech and they trip you up. So, Paul, you challenge first.
Too much sweating,
It
sadly.
was, yeah.
That's it.
And you got in with 17 seconds, so you went for 43 seconds, Josie.
Oh, did I?
And, Paul, you've got yoga. You haven't got it, but that's the subject. And you've got 17 seconds if you need it, starting now.
Well, it's made from fermented milk and comes in all sorts of flavours: strawberry, raspberry, apricot, orange, mandarin, and indeed as a practice of exercises, and yoga cannot be beaten. It was invented by Sir Charles Yoga when he was visiting Basingstoke in 1868. He turned to his wife, who then was known as the...
So Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle when gained that extra point, and he's now equal with Josie in the lead. Stephen, would you begin the next round? The subject, stargazing. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
Well, you lie on your back and you look up at the heavens at night, and processing in front of you constellations, globular clusters, galaxies, the Milky Way being ours, of course, and Vega and Rhago and Betelgeuse and Canis Major and Minor, the Ursa of the same ilk. All kinds of...
Paul challenge.
Is he slowing down to a point where it's becoming hesitation?
It's getting very close to
It is
hesitation.
getting close,
yeah.
isn't it?
Flirting.
Flirting with
Flirting,
it.
yeah. He was getting close. I'm glad you draw his attention to it, because if you go any closer, Stephen, I would have to give it against you.
And you're right,
the
you're
moment
fair.
I don't, and so you have a point for an incorrect challenge, and you keep the subject, and there are still 40 seconds available. Stargazing starting now.
You sit at a table on Hollywood and Vine in Los Angeles in the film district, and next to you is Brad Pitt, for example, maybe Josie Lawrence, some great star of stage, screen or radio, and it's hard not to gaze and stare in wonder at these remarkable people and the record of their achievement, which in your mind is second to none, because they are star-gazing people that are just worthwhile.
Oh,
I said
Josie
people
challenged.
again, didn't I?
Repetition of people.
You're right.
Yes, that's right. Well,
But
listen,
thank you
Josie.
for putting me next to Brad Pitt.
Yes, putting you there.
Well, you know, he's single now. You never know. So am I.
I meant Jennifer Lawrence. I just got confused.
Oh, Stephen,
Yes,
so
we are. We're both
ungallant.
J-Lo.
I didn't. She knows I meant her.
Don't, right. Josie, you've cleverly gone in with a correct challenge, and there's 16 seconds still for stargazing, starting now.
You know, it's very hard to look at stars in a city because of all the light from the lamps. But if you're in the Gobi Desert, as I once found myself, you see the actual arc of the Earth's atmosphere. And above you...
Paul challenge.
What is the actual arc of the Earth's atmosphere?
Oh, no, I know this.
You can see.
Well, you're
You can
justified.
actually see, because you're on a place where you turn around 180 degrees and you see the horizon.
Yes.
You can actually see the arc of our atmosphere. So I was right.
Do you mean the sky?
No!
I've never heard the phrase arc of our atmospheres.
Yes, I know. Well, Charles Yoga didn't invent yoga. The actual arc of the atmosphere, you can actually see where our atmosphere finishes and space
All right,
begins.
all right.
You can just tell that there's going to be letters, really dull letters.
And I
From
would be
Brian
mean if I took it away from you.
It would be
because
mean.
there's only 1 second to go. So, Josie, you still have 1 second on stargazing, starting now.
Diamonds in.
So, Josie Lawrence was again speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point, and she's had increased her lead at the end of the round. Graham, we're with you to begin. The subject is letting off steam. Something you do occasionally in your show, but talk about it if you can, starting now.
I feel I must have lived the first 40 years of my life as a sort of pressure cooker, because it was only when I learnt to drive quite late on that, yeehaw, the steam was unleashed. I am an incredibly angry person, I discovered. And I don't know where that fury resided until I got behind the wheel of a car. It doesn't matter what the other people using the road do, it will upset me. Too slow, if they hesitate, a light to something else.
Stephen, you challenge.
You repeated two and then hesitated.
And was hesitation. So, Stephen, correct challenge.
No, I'm fine about it.
I must say I'm very worried I hope I'm not on the road when you are.
No, I don't do anything bad. No.
Yeah, but if you had a bad driver who cut in front of you, what would you do?
Oh, I'd be saying words I couldn't say on Radio 4, but I wouldn't do anything.
Oh, you wouldn't drive,
I'm a coward before anything else, don't worry.
Stephen, you had a correct challenge. There are still 26 seconds available, letting off steam starting now.
I don't know if any of our listeners have noticed, but there seems to have been a rise in the popularity of that wonderful 50s and 60s cooking utensil staple, the pressure cooker. And there you let off steam after cooking things under intense damp, as they call it in Germany. and there's a remarkable sense of how well things have done. They're electric these days with all kinds of presets. The Instapot is the name of one of the more popular ones.
Yeah, they're very popular. Right. So Stephen 5% speak of the whistle ring, again an extra point. And Paul, we're back with you to begin.
Oh, yes.
Charles Darwin.
Oh, fantastic news.
Tell us something about that great scientist, starting now.
Well, Charles Darwin amazed the scientific world with his theory of evolution. He would have said it a couple of years earlier, but he left it on the bus and tried to do it from memory, and then he got it mixed up with a joke he'd heard in the music hall. He was a superb scientist of his day. The 1860s were built for somebody like Charles Darwin. It was a time of scientific exploration.
Stephen challenge.
Scientific explanation and scientific community earlier.
Oh, yes,
yes,
absolutely.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Stephen.
Yeah.
Another point to you, and 43 seconds available. Charles Darwin, starting now.
Probably only Charles Yoga, the inventor of that remarkable Indian sort of indoor sport, is more famous as a Charles than Darwin. Remarkable man, truly extraordinary for his
Paul, you
achievements.
challenge.
Charles Chaplin.
Well, it's a matter of opinion. I did say probably. It's a good point.
It is a very mute point. I mean, how do I judge on that?
Yeah.
On the scientific level, I agree with you, but on a comedy level, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Give them both a point. Wouldn't that be fair?
Point for comedy, a point for science.
Yeah, and but we'll leave the subject with you, Stephen, and it's still Charles Darwin. 34 seconds, starting now.
Born, I believe, on February the 12th, 1809. That date imprinted on my memory because the day is named after him. It's a place of celebration, temporally speaking. People give lectures in his honour because he really did change our outlook on the world, like very few other human beings have done in the history of our benighted planet. He showed us something that was only proved thousands and thousands of years... Oh, what an arse! Sorry.
Josie, you challenge first.
Repetition.
Yes. You still have 8 seconds if you want it, Josie. On Charles Darwin, starting now.
Charles Darwin went off as a young man on an amazing voyage where he collected many specimens.
Paul challenge.
Slight hesitation on specimens, isn't it amazing? Didn't you hear slight hesitation on specimens?
I was blowing my nose at the time. You can't really
Are there
switch.
any other bodily functions that will distract you from your professional duties? I thought there was a slight stumble on specimens, but it was so slight that you wouldn't have noticed it through
and
your...
anyway, there's only half a second to go.
handkerchief.
I couldn't take it away with half a second to go.
Oh, no.
No, so half a second still for you, Josie, on Charles Darwin, starting now.
What a
So, Josie Lawrence, producer of the again an extra point, and has increased to lead. She's one ahead of Stephen Fry and a few ahead of Paul Merton and Graham Norton in that order. And Josie,
Yes?
it's actually your turn to begin.
Yes.
Bells and whistles. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
Bells have dongs, whistles got balls. That's the way I remember them. Happy memories of whistles. The mobile above my bed, the crib when I was a kid, buying cowbells from Chelsea Girl because it was hip thing to do. The sound of the school bell saying it's playtime. I love bells. Tried church bell ringing once at a local.
And, Graham, you challenge.
Now, this is... You're going to hate me for this. A repetition of bell.
Yes,
It's
right,
true.
yes.
It's true, it's bells.
I know that.
Yeah. Graham, another point to you. You've got 33 seconds if you need it. Bells and whistles starting now.
I have a bicycle. On it is a bell. It does not have a whistle. But I would like bells on it because bells...
Stephen challenge.
Two very naked onnets.
On it, so we're very definitely...
All right. Sorry. There was still a repetition of bells. Bell.
Well, that was correct, and you got a point
Yes,
for
no,
it.
I know.
Don't get cross again. You're not behind the wheel of your car now.
Furious.
Stephen,
Like a pressure
correct
cooker.
challenge. 25 seconds still available. Bells and whistles are
I
starting now.
suppose the phrase connates all good specs that you get, for example, on cars. It comes with bells and whistles and of course, I've repeated the word. But it's on the card. And is on the card. Is it a repetition of and? I trapped you. It was very naughty, that.
You're very clever, Mr. Bond.
Very clever, right. So incorrect challenge, because and is on the card. So, Stephen, another point to you. And 17 seconds still available. Bells and whistles are starting now.
The higher reaches of Anglo-Catholicism are often called bells and smells, and they contain bells and whistles too, sanctuary bells, other sorts of that kind of ringing instrument, and lots of Latin. I like bells and whistles on all things. I don't want...
So Stephen Fry was then speaking as the whistle went, gained an extra point, and he's increased his lead at the end of the round. And Stephen, we're back with you to begin a very modern subject now. Selfie sticks. Horrible things. But talk about them if you can, Stephen, starting now.
Oh, don't get me started. Oh, you just did. Well, the point is, they are, it's frankly true, disgusting objects. I don't like being a sort of Victor Mulder who's a standard grumpy old man disliking everything modern. I remember not that long ago, Nicholas, when mobile phones came up as a subject in this game and everybody deprecated them, but now they're so necessary.
Paul challenge.
We're talking about mobile phones, which is, but it's more selfie sticks.
No, I remember when. I'm talking about the idea of... Many of you, it's up to you if you think it's a deviation.
I think you had got away a bit from selfie sticks there.
I had a bit, hadn't
yes.
I? You're right.
So a correct challenge, deviation.
It's a circular argument.
Yes.
And a point to
Fair
Paul
point.
Merton and the subject, Paul, and there are 41 seconds available. Selfie sticks starting now.
Like every sort of craze that comes along, it seems to have antecedents in the olden days. People got very hung up on photography with Polaroid cameras. Do you remember them? They were all the rage from the 60s onwards.
Stephen challenge.
He's doing exactly what I did. He's talking about something else. He's talking about Polaroid cameras.
So out
Well,
of
it shows
fairness,
that selfie sticks as a subject is inherently boring. That's what it shows.
so I gave it against you, Stephen. I give it against Paul now.
Absolutely.
And you have the subject back. Selfie sticks and 30 seconds available starting now.
I tell you what I call them, narcissistics. That's what they are, because it's about self-love and adoration. It may simply be a cultural difference, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I have seen many, many, many times... Oh, what? I'm playing just a minute, Stephen. Behave yourself. Sorry.
And Graham, you challenge first.
Yes, even old cloth ears heard that. Yeah, there was a,
5 minutes
And
in a row.
Graham, there are 10 seconds still available. Selfie sticks starting now.
A selfie stick is, as it would suggest, a stick, but it extends like the old-fashioned car aerials. But I'm not talking about them, I'm talking about selfie sticks.
So Graham Norton was speaking then as the whistle went. He's moved forward. He's still in third place with Paul Merton. And they're just behind Josie Lawrence, who's just behind our leader, Stephen Fry. And Paul, we're back with you to begin. If I was a time traveller, tell us something about that subject in this game starting now.
I suppose cowardly you might want to go back in time rather than forward, because after all, history is there in the books and you get some idea of what was occurring by reading it up. However, if you jump into the century ahead of us, who knows where we'll be? If we think of just 20 years ago, the things that we now accept as normal in our society would have been extremely strange. 0 hours contract, trolling, things like that. Leicester City winning the title.
Stephen challenge.
Things repeated there.
Yes, there
Oh, yes,
were
yes.
too many things there. And so, Stephen, you were listened well and you've got in with 37 seconds available. If I was a time traveller, starting now.
If I was a time traveller, I think I would go back in time and reset this question from the indicative mood to the subjunctive, so that it said, if I were a time traveller.
Paul challenge.
Well, deviation, it's not a question, it's a subject.
Oh,
it's not a
that's
question.
clever.
It'll be
Oh,
a question.
yes.
Oh, yes, I was thinking of it as... Yes, it's not a quiz, this, is it? You don't have to answer it. I was thinking
There's
of
no
it...
correct answer.
Yes, it's a conditional statement, which is like a question, though, if I were.
Yeah,
That's
well,
right.
well. No, Paul, technically you're correct.
Yeah,
it's not a question, it's a subject.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
And so you have the subject back, and 25 seconds is with you for was a time traveller, starting now.
If I was a time traveller not a million miles away from where I'm sitting now, I would undoubtedly go back to my childhood.
Stephen challenge.
In his first essay, he said, I'm going to go back.
Yes, you did mention going back. If I was a time traveller, Stephen, 20 seconds, starting now.
If I was a time traveller, I would call myself Horus, Lord of the Temporal Zone, and you would worship me because I would be capable of altering everything that you know and making your dreams come true by allowing you to see into the future and alter the past.
Graham, you've challenged.
I think repetition of future.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh. You mentioned the future.
Last time.
Last time you were talking.
I was talking about going back to the indicative and subjunctive. I never mentioned it.
Yeah, just now you said it.
Once, yes, I said it once.
Yes, you did say it before.
When?
I don't know.
Oh, OK.
Let's go with in the past.
I'm just going to say...
No, it might be in the future. This could be
I
a
am
really good
going
challenge.
to record this, and if I find I didn't say the word future twice, I will be suing every one of you. Just saying, that's all.
I can't afford to be sued by you, so you've got to pay a bit of the
Oh, no. Oh, that would make me a bully. No, of course, I'm sure.
No, I think you're right, actually.
If I listen back and you did say future, I will be suing everyone on this map.
Listen,
That's all I'm saying.
I love their contribution, so give them both a point. Right.
Well played, Nicholas, well played.
And I leave the subject with you, Stephen. If I was a time traveller... Oh, only 2 seconds to go. Oh. Starting now!
I think the conversation we've just had shows...
Oh! Right, Stephen's still in the lead. And Josie, it's your turn to begin.
Oh, really?
Oh, it's an interesting subject here. Low-hanging fruit. You take it any way you like, Josie, and there are 60 seconds if you want it, starting now.
They say anything that's low-hanging is easier to get hold of, and I suppose that's true sometimes. I mean, I've had certain boyfriends, but we won't go there. If you're a forager, the low-hanging fruit is very dangerous, covered in cat pee and fox spray and cow lick. Always try and reach up for the higher fruit, but low-hanging fruit is really a metaphor for taking the easiest option. But remember that if the low-hanging fruit is there, you must... Now, I'm getting into a terrible tiz now. I'll just repeat low-hanging fruit until I get back to what I'm talking about. Some fruits naturally are low-hanging, like pineapples, strawberries, kumquats. Is it kumquats? No, I don't know. I'm so glad I repeated kumquats.
So you've got to justify a round of applause for keeping going.
Yes, I didn't breathe as I saw stars.
For 54 seconds you went. It's a mean game, isn't it? Paul, you got in first. What was your challenge?
Yes, well, it was unbelievably repetition of kumquats.
Kumquats.
which seems to happen on every show we do these days.
You've got in with a correct challenge. 6 seconds still available. Low-hanging fruit starting now.
Isaac Newton wandered out into the garden. He looked up at the apple tree, and it suddenly occurred to him that the theory...
So Paul Merton was then speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point. And we are moving into the final round. Equal in third place, Josie Lawrence and Graham Norton, trailing Paul Merton, who is a point or two behind Stephen Fry, who's in the lead. And, Stephen, we're back with you to begin. I'm sure this is something right up your street. Crazy golf.
Oh, Lord.
I can see you on a putting green with a... Right, crazy golf. 60 seconds, Stephen, starting now.
Well, crazy golf around the rest of the world, I've discovered on my travels, is not called crazy golf. They title it miniature golf or mini golf. For some reason, they don't like the word crazy attached to it. We all know it, don't we? You putt the ball along the ground and mustn't really fly up in the way that ordinary golf balls fly up a while.
Stephen, you've challenged yourself.
Yeah, I repeated fly.
So what was your challenge?
Repetition, I repeat.
Yeah, that's correct.
But I should give it to someone else. Did someone else?
No.
No? All right.
You're in the lead, so you can be generous and give it to somebody else.
Yes.
Josie, you challenged.
Yes, I challenged.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, okay.
So you can be generous.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Give it to Josie. Crazy golf, Josie. 39 seconds, starting now.
I love crazy golf. We used to play it in Blackpool when I went on holiday. Get in the ball through the clown's mouth or up the rack to the lighting house where it goes all the way down. It's up there in the sports with...
Graham, challenge.
Terrible thing.
What?
Well, I was going to challenge you on up, but up is such a tiny word.
Oh, it's a tiny word,
No,
Graham.
I mustn't. Yes, it was...
Well, no, you
No,
must
it's still a word, though.
Well, it is still a
Graham.
word, though.
No, it's a bad thing.
It's a particle.
It's a bad
It's a
thing.
particle.
It's a bad thing, yes.
No, I don't think you should be so apologetic. It's correct.
No, sorry.
Anyway, we'd like to hear from you on the last round.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you
Well,
can't...
anyway, I won't be talking for a second, Josie. I'll be back with you. Yes.
I don't want to cause any anger in you, Graham. I've heard what you're like.
It's so nice.
No, and I'm full of remorse.
So, Graham, you have 27 seconds on Crazy Golf, starting now.
It's not crazy. In the same way that fun runs are not that, or a Japanese
Stephen
banquet
challenged.
is a
Wait,
misnomer.
whoa. You've been challenged.
Oh, have I? Sorry.
Yeah, repetition of not.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
I'm going deaf as well as everything else.
I can't believe none of them like Crazy Golf.
I haven't spoken yet.
Oh, no.
You're assuming an attitude which I might not have. But then again, the vagaries of this game may mean I may never speak on the subject.
Stephen, you had a correct challenge.
Right.
21 seconds, Crazy Golf, starting now.
There are tunnels and slides and little spirals and all kinds of ways that the spheroid can be propelled from the head of the club all the way to the final hole. And that's what gives it its splendour, I suppose. Children adore the thing because it's so much quicker than real golf, I suppose I can call it that.
Josie, you've challenged.
Repetition of I suppose.
Yeah, you're probably... I always say that all the time. I don't even know I'm saying it.
And Josie, you've got him with 4 seconds to go. Crazy Golf, starting now.
I once got a hole-in-one on the zigzag. It was...
So, it's very close, but Graham, who contributed magnificently, came in a rather uncomfortable 4th place. But he was only a point or 2 behind Josie Lawrence. She was a couple of points behind Paul Merton, and he was 2 or 3 points behind Stephen Fry. So we say, Stephen, you are the winner this week. So it remains me to say thank you to these 4 fine, humorous players of the game, Paul Merton, Josie Lawrence, Stephen Fry and Graham Norton. We thank Hayley Sterling, who's helped with the score, blown her whistle with great aplomb. We're indebted to our producer, Matt Strong. We're deeply indebted to the creator of this game, Ian Messiter. And we're grateful to this lovely audience here in the Radio Theatre. From them, from me, Nicholas Parsons, thank you. Tune in again at the same time when we play Just a Minute! Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Thank you. Hello. My name is Nicholas Parsons. And as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world. And to welcome to the programme 4 exciting, dynamic performers who are going to play this game. And they are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Pam Ayres. And seated on my left, Zoe Lyons and Julian Clary. Please welcome all 4 of them. Beside me sits Hayley Sterling. She's going to help me keep the score. She'll blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. Zoe Lyons, will you begin the first round? Pick and mix. Something we're all used to, I think, and indulge in on occasions. Talk on the subject if you can, Zoe. 60 seconds if you need it, starting now.
Pick and mix were my 2 gerbils growing up. Unusual names for rodents, but there you go, I was a slightly odd child. Pick and mix was also the best thing you could experience as a youngster as you went into any department store on the high street and were confronted with a fountain of fondant, chewy, gooey, lovely, sweety yumminess, all available in a array of colours and sizes.
Julian, you challenged.
Well, eventually
Yes.
it was a sort of breakdown hesitation.
Yes.
But it was a long time coming.
It was slow stuttering.
Yes, I think it was indicative of a hesitation. So, Julian, benefit of the doubt, and 35 seconds are still available. You tell us something about pick and mix, starting now.
When I was a child, I had 2 hamsters called Pick and Mix. What happened to Mix? I've no idea. Disappeared one day, never seen again. I never was particularly fond of Pick and Mix sweets because of all the E numbers would make you a little bit manic. So I would pass by and move on to the chocolate counter.
So you've challenged.
It was a sort of collaboration of words. It was a counter.
It was a
counter.
It was a hesitation. Sorry,
Yes,
it was
a slight
hesitation.
hesitation. Yes.
So you have a correct challenge. You get a point for that, of course. And 15 seconds available. Pick and mix starting now.
I would grab my little paper bag and shovel in the goodies, willy and nilly, as I went along the pick and mix display, taking with me.
Pam, what is your challenge, Pam?
I thought Zoe sort of ran out of steam somehow.
I know, yes, so we call that hesitation.
Yes, hesitation.
Pam, you have a correct challenge. You have a point. You have 6 seconds if you need it. Pick and mix starting now.
Think of all that sugar encrusted round our children's teeth and the vile...
So Pam Ayres was then speaking of the whistle when again that extra point. And Pam, it's also your turn to begin. The subject now, New York City. Tell us something about the Big Apple if you can, starting now.
I went to New York in the 70s with my boyfriend, who was a teacher, but I found it very frightening. I was not very courageous, and at that time New York was riddled with crime. We were accosted by 2 ghastly, thuggish blokes in Central Park, which...
Julian challenge.
Did you get their number?
Julian, have you got a challenge when the rules are just a minute? No,
just having a laugh.
I'm going to give you a bonus point. A bonus point because we enjoyed the interruption, but Pam was interrupted, so she gets a point for that. And there are 40 seconds still available, Pam. New York City is starting now.
I enjoyed the spectacle of the Statue of Liberty observed from the Staten Island ferry, but I was unnerved by the smoking manhole covers, the armour-plated shops, and the general feeling of menace, and the graffiti-covered subway trains. I am a very innocent country person, and these urban terrors did not sit well with me at all. I am truly floundering. However, when we left New York, I did claim
Paul,
that the best view...
Well, I thought I heard a call for help.
No! I got a second win.
You did.
I got a second win.
I got a second
So you were deviating when you said you were truly floundering.
Yeah, but Paul, she did keep going, even though she said she was truly
No, that's
floundering.
true. She did keep going.
She wasn't
I did
hesitating.
keep going.
Yeah.
So she was interrupted and gets a point for that. And she keeps the subject. And Pam, there's still 9 seconds available if you can manage it on New York City, starting now.
Also, we went to the newly finished World Trade Center and were chased out by 2 burly...
Oh, Paul Tallis.
Repetition of 2.
Yes, you had 2.
2 burly men in Central Park.
Yeah, yes.
Oh.
I know, it's a shame, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Paul, you cleverly got in with 2 seconds to go.
Oh, that just makes it worse.
No.
Yeah, it does.
So you've got the subject, you have 2 seconds. New York City, starting now.
New York, New York.
So at the end of that round, Paul Merton was speaking of the whistle when and gained that extra point. Julian, Clary and Pam Ayres are equal in the lead. And Julian, Clary, we come to you to begin. Julian, the subject is simply bless you. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
Bless you is a common exclamation when someone sneezes, of course, although in our house, my mother would say, wipe it on your sleeve. She gives every appearance of being a sophisticated woman, but actually common as muck. Bless you were words rarely uttered by her, or indeed me, until I went to university and started to mix and mingle with more educated folk. Bless you, they would say, which of course is a reference back to the days of the plague, because if someone had that particular affliction, it would be an early sign that you was a goner. Bless you, they would say, not in a light-hearted way like we do nowadays, but in a sort of sombre tone, because they knew the person who had caused them to say bless you would soon be laying down in a coffin, and they would be blessed, as it were, by the priest at their funeral. Not a lot of laughs in this minute so far, but it is...
Well, it doesn't happen often, but it's another occasion when the person who began the subject kept going without hesitation, repetition, or deviation till the 60 seconds had elapsed. A point for speaking when the whistle went, and a bonus point for not being interrupted. And Paul, it's your turn to begin. The subject is my strong point. We can't wait to hear what it may be. Tell us something about my strong point, starting now.
My strong point is a very difficult subject to address because I don't really think of having a strong point, but as that is the particular thing...
Julian, challenge.
Hesitation.
Yes, difficult subject, Julian, but you've got in with 52 seconds to go.
He won't have any trouble. You can put your buzzers down for the next 56 seconds. Give us a treat, do it alphabetically.
Julian, my strong point. 52 seconds if you need it, starting now.
How rude. My first strong point is my thighs. Do you know, I can crack walnuts between them. They're much admired. I wear a thong in the summer so that this strong point can be admired wherever I go, even down Regent Street. My strong point is whispered about. People whip out their phones and take photographs. And I just don't care. I'm aware, you see, that I am blessed in that department, and I don't see why I shouldn't share it with everyone. Things like...
Zoe challenge.
There was a slight hesitation.
It's called inhaling.
Oh.
I didn't hear him hesitate, actually.
Sorry.
No, he was keeping going, was struggling, I agree. So an incorrect challenge. Julian, a point to you. 19 seconds available. My strong point starting now.
My second strong point, and this will surprise you.
Full challenge.
Well, is this sort of deviation? Is it because it's my strong point, not an endless
No, but it's
catalogue
not
of...
strongest point.
Does it say my strongest point? Does it
No,
say?
but it's my strong point. Not if it was strongest point, then I'd take your point.
So you have two my strong points.
And that's what I'm saying.
My strong point.
That is his strong point.
And I think the subject's in the singular, my strong point. And if you start off on another subject, which is your strong point, that is probably deviation. So I have to give the benefit of the doubt. Are you disagreeing or agreeing?
Just remember, we've given you a bed for the night.
So what do you want me to do, audience? Paul, Julian. Paul, it's with you. 15 seconds available. My strong point starting now.
Undoubtedly, it's sexual energy.
So you challenge.
Did you hear that buzzer? That wasn't anybody interrupting. That was me.
Slight hesitation, definite deviation.
Not the way I
Proof
do it.
do you have, darling?
I'm just assuming. I'm assuming, Nicholas.
Well, we
He
don't
smiled
actually know,
himself.
do we? I mean, because none of us have had personal experience of it.
Night is young.
I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, Zoe, and tell you there are 12 seconds on my strong point starting now.
Whenever I am asked directions in the street by a stranger who is perhaps lost in a city they are unfamiliar with, I like to give them my strong point, which is a firm finger in the direction of travel.
Zoe Lyons within speaking as the whistle went gain that extra point. And it's a very even contest at the moment. They're all fairly close. Zoe Lyons, it's your turn to begin. And the subject now, a fascinating one. Niagara Falls. Tell us something about that magnificent place starting now.
Niagara Falls is an incredible set of falls that separates the United States of America from its northern neighbour, Canada. At the moment, that northern...
Julian
so
challenge.
soon fell.
Hesitation.
Yes, right. Because she hesitated, because she repeated something.
Yeah.
50 seconds available. With you, Julian, on Niagara Falls, starting now.
Aren't they lovely? I go every summer for my holidays. Niagara Falls, just love watching that water tumbling down. There's buckets of it. Who knows? Probably some scientist has worked out exactly the quantity that we see before our eyes, but I'm not bothered with facts and figures. I go there to cleanse the mind. I perform yoga at the very bottom of the falls. Sometimes there's a splash on my face, and sometimes...
And sometimes someone challenges. Pam,
Yes, I think he hesitated. You hesitated.
No, he repeated sometimes.
Oh, yes, that's what I meant to say. That's what I meant to say. He repeated
I knew what
sometime.
you meant to say. I could see it in your face, Pam. Right. So you've got in with 22 seconds available. Tell us something about Niagara Falls, starting now.
I went to the Niagara Falls, and during it...
Julian, you've got it back again.
Sorry, hesitation.
It was a hesitation.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh.
Julian, 18 seconds still available. Tell us more about Niagara Falls, starting now.
If you dive off the top of Niagara Falls...
Pam, challenge.
Not advised.
We enjoyed the interruption, Pam, so we give you a bonus point for that. But Julian was interrupted. He gets a point. He still has Niagara Falls. 15 seconds, Julian, starting now.
It might well take 15 seconds to go from top to the bottom. And
Paul,
A
challenge.
repetition of top and bottom.
Yes, because you mentioned them
Strangely
before.
enough.
Have I
You were
said
in a
bottom?
dive, yeah.
Did bottom of the falls earlier, yes.
really?
Oh,
Yes. So, Paul,
There was two bottoms in that, in fact.
Yeah, that's enough.
and you have 10 seconds, Paul. And you have Niagara Falls if you want it starting now.
Blondin, the famous tightrope walker, issued a challenge. I shall cross Niagara Falls by wire. And he brilliantly set off in 1878 and got there in 1926.
So Paul Merton was speaking as the whistle went. Gained that extra point. He's equal with Zoe Lyons in third place. And Pam Ayres and Julian Clary are equal in the lead. And Pam, it's your turn to begin. Poetic justice. Interesting subject. Talk on it if you can, starting now.
Poetic justice is the situation where good is rewarded and bad is punished. So, for instance, if a dear old lady was tottering down the high street, gibbering gently to herself and singing a merry song at the same time, when suddenly a thug comes along, sticks his foot out, trips her up so that she falls onto the pavement and breaks her dentures, and then he runs off with her handbag and a diabolical laugh, but is then pursued by a wild boar, of which there are many in the Forest of Dean, who sinks his yellow tusks into the man's buttocks. That would be poetic justice, in my opinion.
Keep going.
I hesitated, I confess. I hesitated.
Nani, you have to keep going, otherwise...
I know, I got so
they
excited
can be
by
generous, you know, and give you the benefit of the doubt and keep you going. But unfortunately, you did stop.
I did stop. I got so excited by the wild boar pursuing the thug.
I know you had the whole of the audience. They were with you. They felt those teeth going into the buttock.
Yes.
Paul, you were the one
tusks.
to challenge.
It was his tusks. Nigel. No, Nicholas. It was
Who's Nigel?
It was yellow tusks.
I think she should have a bonus point for the tusks, right?
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
But Paul, you challenged first. It was hesitation.
Yes.
Poetic justice is with you. 3 seconds to go, starting now.
I'll try to fill them with entertainment if that's any help to you.
So, Paul, 3 seconds, starting now.
There was a young man from Bombay who took...
So Paul Merton gained an extra point for speaking as the whistle went, and he's now equal in third place with Zoe Lyons. And also, Paul, it's your turn to begin. Now we've got the subject of Snowdon. Tell us something about Snowdon in this game, starting now.
Snowdon is the highest mountain in Wales, and it's also a rather unlikely place for a railway, but that's exactly what was built up at some time, I believe, in the late 19th century. Visitors to Snowdon often look at this train as it makes its way up the side of the mountain and wonder at the engineering that was put into it. It's a narrow gauge particular form of transport, and that makes it easier to go round corners. Now, the gradient, of course, is extraordinary, but the people of Snowdon, of which the Snowdonians are very proud, they have their own language, ice cream and dairy. And basically what they do is they revere Nicholas Parsons as a living god.
Pam, Janice.
I think that's deviation. I don't think anybody reveres you as a living god. I know this isn't...
That's the only reason why they're here.
I don't
Darling,
mean...
I'm inclined to agree, but how the hell do I judge on that? because, you know, I have to take the compliment from Paul and the audience.
I think you're revered, but perhaps not as a living god.
Pam, I know I'm pretty old, but I am alive.
I think I've dug myself into a hole here. I was trying to say something nice, but it rather came out wrong. I'm sorry, Nicholas.
Darling,
I am
whatever
your
you say,
greatest
I will
fan.
embrace. As well as love to embrace you when I can. Oh, yes, the sex in the show as well. Paul, you have the subject.
Oh, have I? What is the
and a
subject?
point.
Your sex life?
I'll give it to you.
What?
I'll give it to you in a moment.
Well, I know you will.
24 seconds available, Paul. The subject is Snowdon. Starting now.
Snowdon, that most... I don't know what I'm talking about, but I do know this. That's 2 no's, 3 no's, 4 no's.
Pam, you challenge first.
2 no's.
2 no's, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you have the subject back. Snowdon, 19 seconds available, starting now.
I have travelled along Cribidiscal and Cribgoch going round the Snowdon horseshoe, and it was absolutely terrifying. Indeed, I recall a man on all fours, terrified and afraid to go forward or back. And
Julian challenged.
Slightly late, but we had terrified twice.
oh, I thought you were going to ask me for his number.
Pam, your remark deserves a bonus point. Julian, you had a correct challenge. You get a point for that. And you got in with 1 second to go. It isn't popular with the audience, but I have to remind them, those are the rules of the game. So, Julian, 1 second on Snowdon, starting now.
I mounted Snowdon.
So, Julian Clary, speaking as the whistle went, gained the extra point. And what is the situation? Oh, well, it's very close. Zoe Lyons and Paul Merton are equal in second place. Because Julian Clary and Pam Ayres are equal in first place. Julian, we're back with you to begin. The subject is Julius Caesar. Tell us something about that great, successful general and emperor, starting now.
Much like myself, Julius Caesar had wonderful thighs, and we know this from the sculptures. He would mince around wearing a sheet with lovely curly hair, which was really a feature. He was, to use the words of Pam Ayres, a brute. And I know what I like. I've been around many of the museums.
Paul challenge.
It's a little bit of hesitation, I think.
There was a little hesitation, yes. So Julius Caesar is now with you, Paul, and there are 38 seconds available, starting now.
One of the great world leaders, of course, to be commemorated by a salad. One thinks of the Mussolini beetroot, the Stalin potato, and the Tito onion. But, of course, we have in Julius Caesar a marvellous example of a leader who was betrayed by the people around him. Et tu, Brutus, which, of course, is Latin for don't you start. And this was very much the theme of Shakespeare's play of Julius Caesar. He writes of Cleopatra sailing down the Nile, needling away at her garments, and suddenly Julius Caesar sees this beautiful woman. He leans across and whispers in her ear and gives her a box of black magic chocolates.
Well, it's an even competition. Paul Merton, speaking as the whistle went, gained an extra point. He's moved forward, but he's just a little way behind. 2 points, actually, between our joint leaders, Pam Ayres and Julian Clary. And Zoe Lyons, it's your turn to begin. The subject, a bag for life. 60 seconds if you need it, starting now.
To be honest with you, Nicholas, I am just pleased to have made it to this show this evening because I woke up this morning and the handles had fallen off my bag for life. And I thought, gosh, I wonder if that knows something I don't know. Because a bag for life should be just that. It should go through...
Julian challenged.
Repetition of should.
Yeah, there were 2 shoulds there.
2 shoulds.
So, Julian, you have 43 seconds to tell us something about a bag for life, starting now.
Well, of course, we can be picky about the expression a bag for life, but let's just think of the benefits to the environment once this item was invented. No longer do we get a bag or several every time we go to the supermarket. Now we have our one familiar, scratched, perhaps holes in it, bag that is for life. I use the term loosely. Of course, none of us know how long our lives are going to be going.
Sounds like you're coming to an end.
He was getting a bit sombre, I must say, yeah. But Pam, you challenged first.
I did, yes, I did. Hesitation.
Hesitation indeed, yes. And there are 15 seconds still available, Pam. And you tell us something about a bag for life starting now.
My husband and I went to Recife, and it was very, very polluted. Oh, bugs.
Oh, Paul, yeah. It's a natural way of speech, isn't it?
Sorry.
And you can't do it in just a minute. Paul, you challenge first.
Repetition of very.
Yes, 10 seconds available, Paul. A bag for life starting now.
I opened the drawer carefully. The leather bag lay inside. Mother had promised me this bag once she had gone, and now she was no more. The doubloons...
So Paul Merton, speaking as a whistle wind, gained an extra point, and he's now leapt forward. Oh, it's very close. There's only 1 point separating them. No, Zoe's trailing a little, but then you have Paul Merton, and 1 point ahead, Julian Clary and Pam Ayres. And Pam, we're with you to begin, and the subject is to wet your whistle. 60 seconds starting now.
I always imagine a Cockney fella saying to wet your whistle, perhaps a pearly king clad in his garments covered in iridescent buttons. He might say, come in, Pam, and wet your whistle. On the other hand, at home, beside my cooker, I have a utensil container, and in it there is an Irish tin whistle, upon which I frequently play beautiful ballads such as With Her Box Upon Her Head or The Green Linnet as I wait for the souffle to rise or for the loaf to prove. I find that blowing my eye...
So you went for 40 seconds, actually 39.
Oh.
Well done. But Zoe, you challenged first.
It was a bit of a hesitation.
There was definite hesitation. And there are 19 seconds available for you, Zoe. You tell us something about to wet your whistle starting now.
If you do wet your whistle, it becomes a lot harder to blow, so I recommend that you actually keep your whistle dry. When I wet my whistle, personally, I like to take a drink or two. I enjoy the flavour of a sherry, perhaps, or indeed an orange and lemonade to wet my whistle. A dry throat, particularly in...
So Zoe Lyons, who's speaking as a whistle, went and gained that extra point for doing so. And we are moving into the final round. And let me give you the situation as we do. It's very close. Zoe Lyons is trailing just a little and out almost in the lead together. Paul Merton and Julian Clary and Pam Ayres. Only 1 point separates all three of them as we move into the final round. And Paul, we're back with you to begin. And the subject is front crawl. Tell us something about front crawl starting now.
I learned to swim at Sutton's swimming baths, but it turned out that he was teaching us over the course of about 6 months, something we could have learnt in 5 minutes because he was charging 5 bob a time.
Julian challenge.
We had 2 5s.
Yes.
5 minutes and 5 bob.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
You've got in on front crawl if you wanted. 50 seconds available, starting now.
I used to be very good at the front crawl, but now I have frozen shoulder, which has rather curtailed my activities. But I can cast my mind back. The front crawl is the fastest of the swimming activities, closely followed by the butterfly, but let's not split hairs. The front crawl, my arms would whirl forwards and my feet went like the clappers. They're quite large. I'm a 9 or a 10, but let's not talk about what's on the end of my legs. The front crawl, I would...
I'm jealous.
I thought the delivery had become a bit... stilted.
Yes.
Hesitate.
Right, definitely hesitation. You've got a point for that. You have 17 seconds. Tell us something about front crawl starting now.
I always wished I could do front crawl, but there is undoubtedly a technique in opening your mouth at the right time to take a gasp of air and not one of the swimming pool's contents. Instead, I plod up and down.
So Pam Ayres, speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. And now I will give you the final situation. It's all very close. Zoe Lyons, who's done so well, came in 4th place, but she was only 2 or 3 points behind Paul Merton, who was in 2nd place. She was only 1 point behind Julian Clary, and he was only 1 point behind Pam Ayres. So, Pam, we say you're the winner this week. So it only remains for me to say thank you to these four delightful and clever players of this game. Paul Merton, Pam Ayres, Zoe Lyons and Julian Clary. I thank Hayley Sterling, who's helped me with the score, blown her whistle with such style. We're grateful to this lovely audience here in the Radio Theatre. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're deeply indebted to our producer, Matt Strong. So for them, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the audience, goodbye. Tune in again the same time when we take to the air and we play Just a Minute! Welcome to Just a Minute. Oh, thank you. Hello. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world, but also to welcome to the programme four exciting, talented performers who are going to show off their skill with words and language as they try and speak on a subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And those four are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Ross Noble, and seated on my left, Gyles Brandreth and Fern Britton. Please welcome all four of them. Beside me sits Hayley Sterling, who's going to help me with the score. She'll run the stopwatch for me, and she will blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And we begin the show this week with Paul Merton. Paul, blowing away the cobwebs. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
One good way to blow away the cobwebs is to take a walk on a beach. The briny sea air filling your lungs soon blows the cobwebs away. Get rid of those dark, dusty corners of your synapses.
Ross, challenge.
A little bit of hesitation.
Oh, it's building to a climax.
No, that's too keen. He hardly breathed.
OK.
No, it's all right.
I take it back.
Sorry. I've been put off me flow now.
Well, it was just you were on synapses.
Oh, thank you. I'll write that down.
Yeah. An incorrect challenge, Paul. You have a point for that. You keep the subject. Blowing away the cobwebs. 47 seconds available, starting now.
Flies counter their natural enemy, the spider, by developing huge lungs and blowing the cobwebs away from each...
Gyles challenge.
I think we heard lungs earlier because he was clearing his lungs with the briny sea
I was
air.
trying to avoid the word synapses.
You're right, Gyles. He did mention the lungs when he was down the
absolutely.
seaside. So you have a correct challenge. You get the point for that. You take over the subject. 40 seconds are available. Blowing away the cobwebs, starting now.
A cold shower with a hot wife is one way to blow away the cobwebs. I'm familiar with this phrase because as a child I appeared in the play by William Shakespeare, A Midsummer Night's Dream, essaying the role of Cobweb, one of the fairies. I had a companion who was the other Cobweb. We only...
Ross, yes.
There was repetition of cobweb and
Cobweb,
cobwebs.
because on the card it is cobwebs.
Yes, very
You can
good.
repeat what's on the card, but well listened, Ross.
I'm
The
so
tone of the
sorry.
show, I think, has been set, don't you, Nicholas? Noble by name, but not necessarily by nature.
I can change my name to Correct if you like.
Ross, you
Yes.
have a correct challenge. You take over the subject, and there are 22 seconds available. Blowing away the cobwebs, starting now.
Blowing away the cobwebs is best done using your breath, a gentle breeze to get rid of the cobwebs. Don't ever use dynamite. That is a farcical thing to do. You will find a spider's home and then place the explosive device upon it, and at that moment you will take a plunger and then plunge it down, and there will be a massive explosion.
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point, and it was Ross Noble, and so you're not surprised to hear that he's in the lead at the end of the round. And Ross, we'd like to begin the next round, and the subject is Route 66. 60 seconds if you can, starting now.
Route 66 is a series of roads that crosses America. You can tell if you see a sign for Route 66 that the restaurant that you're dining in is terrible. It is usually a dead giveaway, an American diner, but probably somewhere like Romford or Southend that has no connection with that particular majestic route across that fine country. More likely to be served by somebody called Sharon. And if you wish to get your kicks, Route 66 is the best place to do it, and not on the A13. It doesn't rhyme quite as well. You could go to Basildon and attempt to go into some form of roadside eatery, but the one in Route 6...
Oh, Fern, you've challenged.
Was it repetition of roadside?
No, go.
Oh, go.
Well, listen, Fern, yes, a correct challenge. So you get a point for that, and
bless you.
And you take over the subject, and we're going to hear from you for the first time.
Yes.
13 seconds are still available.
Oh, good.
Route 66, starting now.
Route 66 is something that I have read about and I've never seen. I often go on my push bike, and I once went on the Pan-American, I should say, highway, and
Paul challenge.
Well, sadly, she did R. There was a hesitation.
There was, yes.
Sadly, a verbal one.
Bless you.
Vocal
I wasn't
one.
expecting to be talking about it, to be honest.
No, I see that challenge took you by surprise. Yeah. As it did for so many of us.
As there's only half a second to go,
Yes.
I think we should give you a point for a correct challenge, but leave it with
absolutely.
Fern to
Absolutely.
be fair to our newcomer.
Yes.
And say there is half a second still for you, Fern, on Route 66, starting now.
Route 66 is...
So, for them speaking when the whistle went.
Yes.
And you're now equal with Ross in the lead. No, Paul, you and Ross are all equal in the lead, 1 point ahead of Gyles. It's neck and neck.
I'm loving this. Great.
And Fern,
Okay.
we'd like you to begin the next round.
Oh.
Here's the subject.
Okay, go on then.
Soaps. Tell us something about soaps in this game, starting now.
Soap is an extraordinary thing. It can be smelly, it can be foamy, it can be neither, really. When I was young, people used to think it was hilarious to buy me Windsor Fern soap for my birthday. It was horrible. The other thing you can do with soap is soap flakes. You can put them in between tissue... Yes.
Giles challenge.
Hesitation.
There was a hesitation, Fern, yes. But you went for nearly 20 seconds. Giles, a correct challenge, 42 seconds available. Soaps starting now.
You'll grow a little lovelier every day with fabulous pink camay. When I was a child, my father was obsessed with Katie Boyle and watched a commercial on ITV when it was introduced in the 1950s.
Paul challenge.
I can't believe for a moment that your father ever watched ITV. Extraordinary statement.
He wanted to discover how the other half lived.
Yeah.
But he also had this fixation with Katie Boyle.
Oh, they would have lured him across the channels, would
It
it?
certainly would.
Right, so an incorrect challenge. Giles, you still have it, and there are... You've always had it, but you've got the subject. 29 seconds available. Soaps starting now.
I have a vast collection of little soaps gathered from some of the best hotels in the world. My wife says to me it is no longer very mature to be collecting all these bits of soaps from these different places where we stay. I like to take as well as the soaps, all the other bathroom equipment, the toothbrush, the toothpaste, occasionally the glass if I can find a towel to wrap it in.
Paul, you've challenged you.
Sadly, we've moved off soaps into towel rails and towels and other accoutrements of the bathroom, which are related to the soaps, but not quite the subject on the card.
I'm giving people the soft soap.
Well, that remark alone should give the point to me.
Paul, I agree with your challenge.
Oh, that's nice.
And so there are 6 seconds to go.
Oh, yeah.
And soaps starting now.
I like to get hold of a great big piece of soap in my hand and start smothering all over me lungs.
So, at the end of that round, Paul was speaking as a whistle win, getting that extra point. Giles is in the lead, 1 ahead of all the others. And Giles, we're with you to begin. It's a nice historical subject for you.
Oh, Lord.
Marie Antoinette. Can you tell us something about her in this game, starting now?
The story of the French Revolution is something of a soap opera, but one with tragic overtones. Marie Antoinette, I have...
Fern challenge.
I think all soap operas have tragic overtones,
Darling,
not just...
Including the French Revolution.
Oh, all right.
It
I
was a
wasn't
good
there, but
attempt.
you were, obviously, Gyles. So.
We did enjoy the attempt.
Did you?
Yes, but I don't think it was enough to get a point.
Oh.
So it's an incorrect challenge.
Yeah. Hey,
You've got
I
the
don't
audience
mind.
with you, darling,
Yep.
so I'd play on that
I'm not
if I were you.
surprised.
There are
It's
53
very hard being a woman in this sort of situation. You know that, don't you? I'll be fine. I'll be fine.
This is radio, darling. The acting doesn't go very well on the radio.
I disagree. The 4 rows in the front, they were reaching for their handkerchiefs.
But it was an incorrect challenge.
Yes, it
so,
was.
Gyles, you've still got the subject. You have 53 seconds. Marie Antoinette, starting now.
Marie Antoinette, I have the costume and I wear it because Marie Antoinette is one of my heroines. As you will know, she was the last queen of France and of Navarre, married to Louis XVI, and she came to a messy end at the guillotine in the Place de la Concorde, then called the place of the Revolution. I'm not repeating because I'm doing it in different languages, you will have noticed that. And on the 16th of October, 1793, her head came off and fell into a basket. She had not said the terrible words that she's accused of uttering, let them eat cake or brioche. That is a fabrication by an unpleasant revolutionary journalist who wanted to down this poor woman. So unfair. Hugh Grant was very much against this sort of press coverage and actually took action about it.
Right, Paul, you challenge.
Have we strayed from Marie Antoinette onto the subject of Hugh Grant and his...
Yes, we have.
We have a little bit,
Hugh
haven't we?
Grant had nothing to do with Marie Antoinette.
It wasn't for want of trying.
I was trying to explain.
And can I just establish, so it's all right to repeat stuff as long as you do it in a different language?
Yeah.
That is fine within the rules?
Yeah.
That's fine,
no,
is it?
I would have given it against him because he said revolution and revolution with a different pronunciation, but it's still the same word.
Well, no, one has an accent and one doesn't.
A bit like the panel.
Don't let him talk to you like that, Gyles.
So, Paul, I agree with your challenge.
Yeah, good. What was
And you
it?
have 1 second.
This is how the revolution started. It was a conspiracy.
And so you go for 59 seconds,
Yeah.
struggling and giving all your all,
Yeah.
and you lose it all. And
And-
with 1 second to go, Paul, you've got the subject of Marie Antoinette starting now.
Just put the basket on the... That's mean.
So Paul was speaking when the whistle went, gained an extra point. He's equal with Gyles in the lead, and then he's 3 ahead of Ross Noble and Fern Britton in that order. Paul, we're back with you to begin.
Yes.
Subject now, sardines. Tell us something about sardines in just a minute, starting now.
Sardines, of course, a valuable source of fish. That's all I know. And to be honest, I eked that out.
Ross challenge.
I tell you now, he doesn't know any more than I do. So.
How dare you? I was an apprentice with John West.
Until you were rejected.
Yes, indeed.
Sure.
Yes, I challenged because he just stopped.
I know, so we
just
call that
stopped.
hesitation. But
No,
I-
it's only hesitation if I start again.
Agreed, yeah.
Full stop.
It's going to be a long episode then.
It is.
Just play the shipping forecast.
So, Ross, somehow you've cleverly
Yeah,
got in with 57 seconds to go, having got a point. And the subject is sardines, starting now.
Sardines, when opened, a tin of them, you can find oil inside. That's because the sardine is very good at swimming around in that particular substance. Should there be a slick? Should there be some... I've said should there be.
Should they be 3 times, including the apology?
Yes, right.
Yes.
So, Paul, correct challenge to you. 43 seconds, sardines, starting now.
Vitamin D oozes out of these little devils.
Fern, new challenge.
Oh, did I?
Yes, you did.
Oh,
Yeah, yes, you
gosh.
did.
I don't know.
Hesitation.
It was her hesitation.
Oh, definitely.
It was a big
Yes, definitely
hesitation. I'm so
hesitation,
sorry
right.
about that. And
I'm
I'm
glad you
thrilled to
spotted
get
it
this
so quickly,
subject. Thank you
Fern.
very much.
So there are 40 seconds still available, Fern. Tell us something about sardines, starting now.
The Sardines were an extraordinary family who lived just down our road. There was Mrs. Sardine, Mr. Sardine, Tommy Sardine, Sheila Sardine.
Giles challenge.
Only because she's new. Sardine is in the singular and it's sardines on the card. You've now given us 4 repetitions of sardine on its own.
Oh,
The last
thanks.
one was Tommy Sardine.
Yeah.
Did you like Tommy? He was great, though.
I know, I can picture him now. I can see him now.
Very oily boy,
Yeah.
was he? Small house they lived in, was it?
If they lost the key, they couldn't get in. Oh, dear.
Gyles, that was the correct challenge, so you get a point for
Damn
that.
you.
And Fern, you can keep the subject. And
Oh, what?
Of course.
And there are 32 seconds, but don't repeat sardine
32
again.
seconds.
No, OK.
32 seconds, sardines, starting now.
OK. The Sardines did live in a very small house, but it was attractive and warm enough. When you went to the bathroom, there was an enormous bath that was often full of oil and salt, which was peculiar, but I didn't mind having a wash in it. I came out feeling very smooth afterwards. Now, the Sardines also drove...
This is the worst subject we've ever had.
Why were you helping yourself to their bath?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Excuse me, Mr. Sardine.
Yeah.
Tommy's not using it.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I just
Well,
have a go into your bath?
I didn't get as far as telling you that Susie Sardine was my close friend, and so when I went over there, she'd often let me use the bathroom.
But Gyles, that was a correct
Oh,
challenge.
let's have Giles talking about sardines about everybody else. He'll know something. He'll know something.
So a point to Gyles. 13 seconds still available. Gyles, sardines starting now.
I do know that sardines are baby pilchards. I'm also familiar with the fact that there's a game called Sardines because at a fancy dress party I attended as Marie Antoinette with Hugh Grant dressed as King Louis XVI,
So Gyles, within speakers, the whistle when gained the extra point, and he's moving to the lead. It's just 2 ahead of Paul Merton and 3 or 4 ahead of Ross Noble and Fern Britton in that order. And Ross, we're back with you to begin. The subject now is a fly on the wall. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
I saw a fly on the wall in an episode of Grand Designs. It was quite unusual. Instead of a door, they had a large zip, and the people would enter through it. Kevin MacLeod came out and proclaimed, "This is a fly on the wall. It is a new concept in home renovation." Unfortunately, every time somebody was to turn up at the house, horrible things were seen through that particular area. So the episode was very much cancelled from the schedules. A fly on...
If it was cancelled, how did you see it?
Well, it was on the on-demand service. You can...
Yeah.
I said it was from the schedules, but you can watch it online. It's the future, Daddy-o.
Yeah. We're cooking with gas.
So what's your challenge, Gyles?
Deviation.
From what?
From the facts of the case. I've not missed one episode of Grand Design since the series started. This never occurred. There is no vulgarity, there is no zipping up and down, there's no speaking of fly on the wall. There's nothing like this. No programme has ever been cancelled. They've all been repeated beautifully.
I don't remember seeing anything.
I saw it. I remember seeing it.
Yeah, he saw it.
Couple of learned fantasists over there. You and I, Nicholas, when we watch this programme, we only watch it when location isn't on. We talk about that, but it's got built-in repetition.
I think, Gyles, actually your challenge is correct. So you have a point. You have 27 seconds. A fly on the wall starting now.
Don't you wish that you could be a fly on the wall?
No. Not if it involves listening to that song. I don't want to be a fly on the wall at all. I don't care whether I'm right or not. At least I stopped it.
Paul, I give you a bonus point because we enjoyed the interruption.
Thank you.
But I don't think you were actually deviating from the subject on the card.
Not from music.
Gyles. So you keep the subject. 22 seconds, a fly on the wall, starting now.
Miley Cyrus and I sang that number together, and it was a hot night, I can tell you. You would like to have been a fly on the wall as we boogied away until dawn. There was an erotic charge in the room.
Paul, challenge.
Once again, I repeat, I do not want to be this fly on the wall. So he's being charged for his eroticism.
So what is your challenge with the rules?
I wanted to stop it again. It was just... no, I don't think he deviated enough, really.
He didn't deviate enough, no. An incorrect challenge.
Yeah.
But we enjoyed it. 10 seconds.
No, can I just say...
Yeah.
We didn't. There was no enjoyment taken from that mental image.
So give the other 3 a point each. Gyles gets one because it was an incorrect challenge.
Yeah.
keeps the subject. 10 seconds, a fly on the wall, starting now.
Trying to swat that fly on the wall is about the only exercise I get nowadays. I take the appliance and begin thrashing thunderously against the wall.
So at the end of that round, Gyles, speaking as a whistleblower, gained an extra point, has increased his lead ahead of Paul, Merton, Ross Noble and Fern Britton in that order. And Fern, we're back with you to begin.
Oh, good.
My ideal bike ride. Can you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
My ideal bike ride actually was in South America. We started in Panama and we stood at the canal and were able to see both oceans, the Pacific and the Atlantic, at once. And then we got onto our bicycles and we rode over to Costa Rica across a very rickety bridge above...
Gyles' challenge.
I felt there was a bit of hesitation.
There was a definite hesitation.
Yes, but I was telling you, it was a good...
cracking
I was
story. It's
coming
one of the
to
best.
a really good one where the customs men attacked us.
Well,
and-
Diane, save it. You might get in again. 39 seconds, Gyles, for you. My ideal bike ride, starting now.
My ideal bike ride was a curious one. I happened to be working for the customs in a South American country, and these two gorgeous girls came towards me riding their...
Fern challenge.
I would have seen you and I didn't.
But he
And
was
so-
dressed as Marie Antoinette.
Oh!
That was him.
Okay. My mistake.
No, not your mistake. It was a deviation. He wasn't in the customs there
No,
over
he wasn't.
in South America.
No.
So you get in, Fern, with the correct challenge, and you have 29 seconds to tell us more about my ideal bike ride, starting now.
Once we got into the next country, the girls and I rode along the Pan American Highway with enormous land train trucks hammering down behind us, going "Err" on their hooters. It nearly knocked us over the edge into the ravine. And that...
Oh, Gyles'
sorry.
challenge.
Yes,
so sorry.
no, it's fine. I don't... Honestly, guy, whatever your name is...
It'll be on the charge sheet in front of you.
His name is Gyles, by the way, Fern,
yeah.
and he challenged first. What is your challenge, Gyles?
Hesitation.
I'm afraid it definitely
Well,
was
it
on this occasion.
was.
So, Gyles, you have the subject of my ideal bike ride, and 13 seconds starting now.
My ideal bike ride takes me from West London through the south and on to the Isle of Thanet and the Kent coast, where I...
Fern challenge.
Thanet, the Isle
Yeah.
of Thanet. It wasn't Thanet, was it?
No, it didn't sound like that to me.
The remark that was made earlier about my accent, I was trying to roughen it up a bit. I was hoping
succeed.
for a bit of street cred. I know that Radio 4 now dumbing down the beautiful tones of yesteryear when my father and Katie Boyle were together. Seemed to have
I'm
been
sure
abandoned.
that the audience would thank you for that.
So, Fern, what is your challenge?
My challenge is mispronunciation, which must be deviation.
Yes.
For Thanet.
For Thanet?
So you're sure he wasn't just talking in a different language?
Ah, that's what it was.
Yes.
The Isle of
Revolution
Thanet.
and revolution.
Yeah.
Right. 4 seconds, Fern. My ideal bike ride, starting now.
My ideal bike ride took me past a pond where there was a small baby crocodile.
So Fern Britton was then speaking as a whistle when gained an extra point, and she has moved forward.
Oh.
She's still in third place, but she has moved. But she's only 1 point behind Paul Merton. She's 1 point ahead of Ross Noble, and a few points behind Gyles Brandreth, who begins the next round.
Well done.
Gyles, procrastination
Sorry?
is the subject. Do you want to write it down? Procrastination,
I've got it.
60 seconds if you need it, starting now.
Never put off until tomorrow what you can do the day after. Just as a country with rose-tinted vehicles could be described as a pink carnation, so taking the word procrastination and dividing its parts up, we discover interesting etymological things. Pro means forward, crastination means the day following.
Paul challenge.
Repetition of means.
Yes.
Pro means,
Yes.
procrastination means.
Right.
No, fair enough.
Oh, correct, yeah.
Have you spotted a star prize? Behind the curtains of the yacht.
Paul, you have a correct challenge. You have 38 seconds still available on procrastination, starting now.
Well, it's one of those things that we like to settle ourselves in our normal lives, in our routines and rituals, and sometimes procrastination is something at the top of our list. We sit around and think we do what we normally...
Ross, you challenge first.
A bit of hesitation.
There
Yeah,
was, definitely.
absolutely.
25 seconds is still available, Ross. Tell us something about procrastination, starting now.
My perfect bike ride would be through the countryside of Europe. It's a...
Gyles challenge.
Well, first of all, deviation. He's talking about the last subject, and then he hesitated.
We can still talk about the last subject.
What I was doing was,
hesitation.
I'll do this subject later.
That's a very clever interpretation of the rules, so give him a bonus point.
yes.
The trouble was I couldn't remember what the last subject was.
Sardines.
That's the one.
Anyway, Gyles, correct challenge. 19 seconds, procrastination starting now.
Linguistic scholars also love the word procrastination because it features in a famous tongue twister where Pretty Polly procrastinated on...
Ross challenge.
Never try a tongue twister.
It was all kinds of wrong.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
So, Ross, you've got him with 10 seconds to go with the correct challenge. Procrastination starting now.
I would sometimes put things off for weeks and weeks and weeks.
Just leave. Just leave. That was just the most embarrassing.
That was the
just,
worst.
Oh, that was dreadful.
Oh, my God.
It's a natural way of...
If only you'd procrastinated.
Oh, God, yeah, exactly.
Dear, oh dear.
But that's the natural way we speak, and so this is what's such fun about this game. But, Paul, you got in first. I mean, I don't
Repetition
need to...
repetition of weakness.
There are still 6 seconds. Procrastination starting now.
I remember painting the word procrastination on the garage door. P-R-O-C. Another R.
So,
that was
we're
just
moving into the final round. Anyway, I'll give you the situation as we do. Ross Noble and Fern Britton are equal in third place. They're only just behind Paul Merton. Paul is 3 or 4 points behind Giles Brandreth, who's in the lead, and it is Paul's turn to begin. Pulled pork.
Yeah.
Pulled pork is with you, Paul. 60 seconds starting now.
Well, it's one of the great crimes of the countryside. Pulled pork, forced chickens, rushed ducks. Animals are being forced into all kinds of unusual positions. Pulled pork was something we didn't hear of about 20 years ago. It's probably something you sweep up off the factory floor and stick into the bin normally. But now you can say, no, that pork's been pulled. Really? Which direction? It doesn't matter. It's been extruded out. The flesh and the bones have been separated and presented to you as a magnificent dish. Now, the inventor of pulled pork were 2 people who had 1 pork pie between them, and they fought over that Christmas noon and night. And in the end, it was decided that what they should do is to go into business together. Barry Watkins and Harry Metcalfe were 2 of the finest men you could ever hope to meet. Unfortunately, they're not the ones I'm talking about. The pulled pork individuals were 2 twins, Norman and Sally Cartwright, and they had an evil message about them. They wanted to pull pork all over the world.
Well, that doesn't happen often in this game. Someone starts with the subject and goes the full 60 seconds without being interrupted, without hesitation, repetition or deviation. And he finished up in 2nd place. And there are a number of points ahead of Ross Noble and Fern Britton. They all contributed magnificently, but if you want to know who was in the lead at the end, it was Giles Brandreth, so let's give him an extra round of applause. So we don't need to really speak to say thank you to these 4 fine, delightful, humorous players of the game, Paul Merton, Ross Noble, Fern Britton and Giles Brandreth. I thank Hayley Sterling, who's helped me with the score, blown her whistle with such delicacy. We're indebted to our producer, Matt Strong. We're deeply indebted to the creator of this amazing game, Ian Messiter. So from this lovely audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, goodbye. Tune in the next time we take to the air and we play Just a Minute. Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Thank you. Hello. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it is my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world. And to welcome to the programme 4 exciting, talented people who once again are going to show their skill with words and language as they try and speak on the subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, repetition or deviation. And they are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Josie Lawrence, and seated on my left, Stephen Fry and Graham Norton. Please welcome all 4 of them. Beside me sits Hayley Sterling, who's going to help me with the score. She'll blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And we're beginning the show this week with Graham Norton. Graham, an interesting subject. It'll all come out in the wash. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
It'll all come out in the wash is something I think we all learnt the first time we did laundry away from home. Our mother didn't really teach us that properly, but practical purposes meant that we did discover that some dyes are not fast, I think is the correct word that is used for that subject. I myself am still not very good at doing the thing in the machine that goes around with the detergent.
So, Josie, you challenge first.
Hesitation.
Yes, there was.
I nearly said deodorant. I knew that wasn't right.
It's a tough game.
It is. It's very
when you're under that pressure and you're 3 eager people breathing down your neck, waiting to jump in. And,
or when you're very bad at it.
So anyway, Josie, you challenge first. There are 31 seconds still available. You get a point, of course, for a correct challenge. And you have the subject. It'll. They haven't put it will.
It'll. Is it it'll?
It'll or it will. I'll accept either. I don't like abbreviations.
No.
I think we will say it will all come out in the wash, Josie, starting now.
It'll all come out.
Paul, challenge.
Hesitation.
No. Of course, that was keen.
Was it not?
It was over keen. And it wasn't very popular in the audience either, was it? Josie, an incorrect challenge. You have a point. You have 30 seconds still available. It will all come out in the wash, starting now.
It'll all come out in...
See, there was a difference. There was a difference.
Graham, you challenge.
A repetition of it'll.
It's on the card.
No, but you made it will.
No, he said it could be
he said
either.
he'd accept either.
You said you didn't like abbreves.
Yeah.
Abbrev, that's right. It could be either.
I stand corrected.
I won't charge any points on that.
No.
29 seconds still with you, Josie. It'll all come out... Oh, there. I said it because it's bloody well written on the card. It will all come out in the wash, starting now.
It will all come out in the wash isn't necessarily true, especially when it comes to biro, blood or red wine. I have never found any washing detergent that gets rid of these 3 particular stains. Some people say, why don't you use bicarb of soda or salt or go down to the lake with a rock and start rubbing the said garment? It will all come out in the wash. How...
Right. So Josie Lawrence was then speaking as the whistle went in this game. If you do that, you get an extra point. And at the end of the first round, she's the only one to have got any points. Stephen, we'd like you to begin the next round. I don't know whether this is chosen for you. My favourite dance. I don't associate you as a dancer, but can you talk on the subject starting now?
I expect you're wondering, is it the samba, the paso doble, maybe? It could be a waltz, a polka, minuet, pavane. No, it's not the black bottom or the Charleston. My favourite dance is no damn dance at all. I hate dancing so much. I don't think there is anything I detest in this world or on this planet so much as the Terpsichorean muse. I cannot abide the motion of musical bodies. It just disturbs me so much. It's probably guilt because I have a body like a bin liner full of yogurt and I feel so inappropriate when I move across the dance floor. I just don't have what it takes. I never did. As a child, I looked at others and I envied them so much I felt I must have missed a lesson or something. No one taught me how I should pose myself rhythmically. I just don't know how to do it, and therefore I'm ashamed of myself, and I turn that around into
wait a minute. Yes, who's challenged? Paul challenged.
Repetition of how to.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes, probably right. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Have I... Have I spoilt your evening?
It's a wicked game.
It's evil.
Because, Stephen, you went for 53 seconds. Yes.
I have spoilt your evening.
But that's the way the game goes. And Paul, correct challenge, 7 seconds available, starting now.
I was going to say that my favourite dance is the cha, but actually it's the tango. I believe that the Spanish Americans first looked at each other and said...
So Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point for doing so, and he's creeping up on Josie Lyons, who's a bit sinister, that, isn't it? Who's in the lead. And Josie, it's your turn to begin. The subject is Punch and Judy, starting now.
Well, I don't really like Punch and Judy. Used to when I was a child, but it's so very violent. The story, Punch, why does Judy stay with him? He's aggressive, not very attractive.
Paul challenge.
She left him ages ago. She's moved in with Richard.
Have you got a challenge within the rules for just a minute?
Not with a joke like that. I don't think I need one.
What we do on this occasion, give Paul a bonus point because we enjoyed the interruption. But Josie, you were interrupted. You get a point for that. And you have 48 seconds. Punch and Judy, starting now.
She asks him to look after the tiny child, but he doesn't. He throws it up in the air and it falls down. Oh, I've killed the baby. And she comes back, goes, oh, Punch, what have you done? And Mr. Bumble comes on and then Punch kills him and then he kills the devil.
Oh, Stephen
it's
challenge.
true.
Yeah, double homicide there.
Double homicide.
Yeah.
Too much killing.
Josie, spoiler alert. I mean,
Sorry.
Right, anyway, Stephen, you had a correct challenge. And you have Punch and Judy. There are 31 seconds if you need it. Starting now.
A kind of seaside entertainment, isn't it? Based, I believe, on Commedia dell'arte as so much is. Punchinella was the character from which Punch derived, or so I'm told. There was the Punch and Judy Man, a Tony Hancock film, which I quite enjoyed, as a matter of fact. Not a brilliant classic, but fine and good entertainment in its own way. The Punch and Judy pub in Covent Garden I used to go to as a young man, I don't know if it's still there, was on a sort of upper floor looking down on the plaza, and I rather enjoyed the Punch and Judy.
Graham, you challenge.
it is.
Oh, thank you. It is on the first floor.
Yeah, no, it's
oh,
also,
good,
it's
good,
good,
good.
it's very nice.
So we give him a bonus point because we enjoyed the interruption.
And I'll take it.
You were interrupted. So you get a point for that, Stephen.
I pressed as well. Do I get anything?
Josie, you challenge.
Yes, he said I rather enjoyed twice.
He did.
Oh!
Right, you get a point for that. You take over the subject, and there are only 3 seconds available. Starting now.
That's the way to do it, says Mr. Punch. Scary.
So at the end of that round, Josie Lyons, speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. She's now in the lead, ahead of all the other three. All the other three? That's not very good English. She's ahead. Oh, she's ahead. Paul, it's your turn to begin.
Absolutely.
And the subject now is Norfolk Broads, starting now.
Norfolk Broads. I went there as a school call. Oh, God.
Josie and Stephen, your lights came on together. So what do I do? Audience, you tell me.
I think we should do paper, scissor, thingy.
All right.
Oh, go
Go
on,
do
then.
that then. This is great radio, I may say.
This could be a spin-off show.
I did rock, she did paper.
All right.
He did rock, I did paper.
Yeah,
right,
she wins.
Okay. 57 seconds available. Norfolk Broads, starting now.
It's a wonderful place to have a holiday, Norfolk Broads. There's lots of rivers and little lakes. The peat bogs, they came into being when people dug for said manure-like substance. I didn't know what to put another word for peat.
I thought I had to dig her out of a peat bog of her own making.
Stephen, correct challenge. 45 seconds still available. Norfolk Broads, starting now.
My mother and sister are proud Norfolk Broads, and I'm a son of Norfolk, and so I regard the question as a very pleasing one to try and address. Wroxham is, in many respects, one of the capital starting-off points for an exploration of these remarkable man-made phenomena. They were, as Josie rightly pointed out, originally dug as peat bogs by monks and other figures like that, and I really think they did the world a service, because these are marvellous natural waterways, smooth, clear, gorgeous churches rising up from them. You see the sails cut strutting through the fields. It's a marvellous sight. Hoverton, of course, Coltishall.
Paul challenge.
Did we have marvellous twice?
You did have
Oh,
marvellous
yes.
twice.
Well, they are doubly marvellous.
It was the third. It was the third row started mumbling it. It'll be stereo at home because it started on the left and went right there. He said mumbling, Stephen Fry.
Yeah.
He did. He said mumbling.
Well, you see, they're from Suffolk, you see.
Indeed,
It is beautiful.
No, I know Norfolk quite well. I did a show from up there for quite a long time. The Norfolk accent is a very difficult one to get hold of. Hello, Nicholas. I could come up here and get you a nice cup of tea if you like, eh? Because
What are the chances of people from Gloucestershire being in Norfolk when you were there?
Oh, you really are too kind. I was thinking Johannesburg, funnily enough.
So, Paul, you had a correct challenge.
Yes.
You get a point, and there are 12 seconds. Norfolk Broads starting now.
David Bowie wrote a lyric from Ibiza to the Norfolk Broads, and when I was much younger than I am now, I remember standing on board the boat, looking towards the water and saying to myself, one day...
So Paul Merton was then speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point. He's 1 point behind our leader, Josie Lawrence. She's 2 points ahead of Stephen Fry and Graham Norton in that order. And Graham, we're with you to begin. Yeah. And the subject, if I could change one law. That's the subject. Talk on it if you can, starting now.
When I think about the law I would like to change, it raises more questions than it answers. Because obviously, it would need to be a big law. You don't want to change something petty like a littering fine. So I suppose you're going right for the top for murder, perhaps? I don't know. Because we could certainly have an amnesty.
Stephen, you challenge.
Well, I think is kind of a definition of hesitation.
I think it definitely was.
All right.
So, Stephen, a correct challenge. A point to you. 37 seconds available. If I could change one law, starting now.
Perhaps it would be the law that says that thou shalt not repeat on this game, because I'm always doing it. I never mean to. It's a sensible law and shouldn't really be altered. Maybe it would be Jude that I would change. Not as the actor, of course, I'm talking about, Jude Law. I've said his name twice. I've done it again. What's the matter with me?
Stephen, you've challenged yourself.
Sorry, that's... It was a reflex. I'm sorry. I must stop doing this.
So anyway. I think you should...
I just want to make it clear that I wouldn't change Jude Law because he's a bad person. I just think he should wear quiet kind of blues and mauves rather than the strident browns he wears. So that's all.
And it was a correct challenge.
I think that's
you
a
now
useful
have
thing
to
to
donate
say.
your challenge to somebody else.
Yes, to whom? To Graham next
Norton,
to me, I think.
He's sitting next to you.
Yeah,
right, Graham.
Yeah, out of pity.
If I could change one...
Don't give it to me.
It's yours, mate.
Okay, it's mine.
It's yours.
Yes.
If I could change one law, only 20 seconds available,
there we are.
starting now.
20 seconds to talk about that law I really want to change. I've even had time to think about it, so you can imagine my excitement when the subject was given back to me. I could share with you.
Stephen, repetition of he repeated a hesitation.
I breathe noisily.
I think I have to give it to you, Stephen. Right. 7 seconds, Stephen. If I could change one law, starting now.
If I could change one law, it would be that which states that it is illegal to pee on a Wednesday, because that's unfair. You should be allowed.
So Stephen was then speaking as a whistle when came that extra point. You're 1 point behind our leader, Josie Lawrence, and a couple of points ahead of Paul Merton and Graham Norton. And Stephen, we're back with you to begin. An apple a day, starting now.
Keeps the... hello.
Graham, you
In
challenge.
fairness, that was hesitation.
That was hesitation.
Yes. I wasn't really hesitating. I just didn't start very quickly. But you're right.
Well, that is actually called hesitation.
If only you hadn't started, it wouldn't have been hesitation.
It would have been obstruction or something like that.
Right.
Obstruction.
So, Graham, a point to you.
I was miles away. I do apologise.
No, don't go miles away. We like you in the show. 59 seconds, Graham. An apple a day, starting now.
Well, the old adage is that an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Certainly that's what I heard when I was a child. My mother would repeat that often when I'd wake up and look at the apple on the bedside table and go, why have you put that there? And she would remind me that an apple a day would be good for my health and prevent medical professionals coming to the house. I queried her wisdom, because surely sometimes, had you called an ambulance, say, apples are going to be detrimental to the health of the people in the house. Sadly, they're all dead now and can't hear this.
Stephen Challenge.
Now, it's rather late, but detrimental to the health of the house. And earlier we had health professionals.
Oh, that's right, yes.
Yes.
You tried
Too
to get
much
a...
health.
Stephen was listening. It was beside you. Picked it up very quickly. 25 seconds still available, Stephen. An apple a day starting now.
Yes, sped to be wabba habba.
Josie Challenge.
Hesitation. He sped to be wabba habba, he said. He was talking in tongues.
I'm getting all excited. I'm sorry. I just...
With a touch of balloon in there.
So we call that a stumble. We call that
it was a
hesitation,
stumble.
Josie.
It was all
a
wrong.
point to you. An apple a day and 23 seconds starting now.
It's very true what Graham said. An apple a day does indeed keep the doctor away. That's because it's full of vitamin C. My uncle used to say an onion a day, but no, apples are where it's at, especially, you know, if you eat the core. Not many people know this, but the most nutritional part of the fruit is, in fact...
So Julie Lawrence, speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point, and she's in the lead. A couple ahead of Stephen Fry and 3 more ahead of Paul, Merton and Graham Norton in that order. And Josie, we're actually back with you to begin. The gloves are off. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
The gloves are off, I suppose, means that if you're boxing and the gloves are all padded and you get really angry, rip the gloves off and start to fight dirty. Could go back to the oldie-worldy days, I suppose, when they had gauntlets, which they would take off and slap around each other's faces, throwing it on the floor, and then a duel would ensue. Also, the gloves are off after I've done, say, the washing up. That's why my hands are so silky smooth, because I wear rubber gloves. And when they come off, well, any man that happens to be in the kitchen is a lucky old soul. The gloves are off. Also is like bear...
All right. Paul, you challenge.
Are you wearing the gloves now?
No. No, I've got really silky hands.
And you've got very strange nail varnish, too.
It's blue, it's modern.
We didn't have the colour blue in the old days. The sky was thatched. Didn't have blue.
So, Paul, what's your challenge?
I can't remember.
No, nor can I.
He was looking at my hands.
I was looking at her hands. I know they are silky smooth.
All
I
right.
withdraw my
Incorrect challenge, Josie. A point to you.
Absolutely.
15 seconds. The gloves are off, starting now.
Yes, you're not going to stand for anything. The gloves are off, Michael. I'm going to hit you after what you said about the boss. Don't you realise I love Diana? Take that. Bap! He goes with his bare knuckles, skimming the surface of the man's cheekbone. There's a...
So Josie Lawrence began with the subject and finished with the subject with one interruption, and she was speaking as a whistle when gained an extra point for doing so, and she has increased her lead at the end of the round. And Paul, we're back with you to begin.
Yes.
And the subject now is Mary Shelley. Will you tell us something about Mary Shelley in this game, starting now?
Mary Shelley, of course, composed the story The Frankenstein, which has been filmed many times over the Hollywood years. Mary Shelley
Stephen challenged.
Well, he just fell down a bit
I was
there,
just saying
sadly.
composed again. And
Right,
what a silly thing to do.
So you've got in, Stephen, with 52 seconds available.
Absolutely.
On Mary Shelley, starting now.
A child of 2 remarkable parents, Godwin and Wollstonecraft, Mary married the poet Percy Bysshe Shelley and became in her own right a truly significant figure in English literary history. More than that, our cultural story owes much to this fascinating woman. Frankenstein, subtitled A Modern Prometheus, was the result of a kind of bet that she made with Byron and Polidori.
Josie, you challenged first.
It was a hesitation.
Byron.
Who was Byron?
That was Byron's nickname in those days.
Right. So, Josie, correct challenge, increasing your lead there. 28 seconds available. Mary Shelley, starting now.
Oh, what a woman. Yes, it's true. It was a kind of bet when they were on holiday with Byron. Shelley said, why don't we write a horror story? And when she went...
Stephen challenged.
No, it was Paul who said story earlier, not you. I don't know why I'm challenging you for saying something that
Because you're too
Paul
keen,
had said.
Stephen,
That was very silly.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
But all that happens is she gets another
so
point.
repetition of what Paul said is my challenge. It doesn't really work, though, does it?
It makes the game slightly more difficult.
Repetition of words I've heard before.
Repetition of what Kenneth Williams said in 1960. I've come all the way from Great Portland Street to do this show.
Josie, you have a point for an incorrect challenge from Stephen. 18 seconds. Mary Shelley, starting now.
An image apparently came into her head of a young, pale doctor leaning over a corpse, or many corpses, all sewn together. And that's what gave her the idea for Frankenstein. Actually, although she's a wonderful woman, that's all... That's all I know.
So Josie Lawrence really is excelling in this particular show. Again, speaking as a whistle wind, again getting an extra point, and again increasing her lead. And Graham, we're with you to begin the next round. Barbecues. Tell us something about those sort of shows which some people love and some... Do you like barbecues?
I'll tell you in a minute.
I know. 60 seconds, Graham. Barbecues, starting now.
Barbecues are an excuse for men to do the cooking. And they laughably ask you, how do you want your steak done? And unless your answer is completely cremated or room temperature and raw, it is very unlikely it will arrive on your plate as you demanded it be served. I barbecue myself sometimes, but...
Barbecue yourself?
Why not?
Did you burn yourself or underdo yourself?
Did you prick yourself with a fork before you do it? That's outrageous.
It was all right. It was a very low temperature.
Self-cannibalism.
So, Paul, what's the challenge?
What's deviation? He's eating himself at a barbecue. If that's not deviant, I'd hate to see you throw a party.
I know, I understand your challenge, but technically he was trying to convey that he does barbecues, not that he barbecues himself.
Yes, that's true.
And,
I got confused by he said I barbecue myself.
I know.
That's
I know you did, and you drew attention, and we all got a laugh.
Yeah, fair enough.
And Graham's got a lovely sense of humour.
Yeah.
And so he saw the joke against himself.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to give it against you, Graham. Because I know what you meant.
This is one of the thinnest books in the world, Graham Norton's Guide to Outdoor Barbecues. Have fun with chipolatas.
The benefit of the doubt to you, Graham. 36 seconds still available. Barbecues starting now.
Happily, you can now purchase those bags of charcoal where you set light to the paper surrounding the coals, and that creates your barbecue, and therefore it's quite easy to put on fire, because those are words I haven't used before. Now, you then rush into the house giddy with excitement because there is flame in the barbecue.
Stephen challenge.
Two becauses. Because the words are not used.
Yes.
Because.
Oh, he's keen, isn't he?
I just, you know.
No, because it's a very long word, you're right. It's one of the longest words
correct.
I know, so I really shouldn't use it so much.
So, Stephen, it was a correct challenge, so you have 11 seconds. Barbecues starting now.
You see it on American ranch posts, don't you, as bar-B-Q, the final two being letters. I've never enjoyed them. Flies and vomit and all kinds of unpleasantness.
So Stephen was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point, and we are moving in to the final round. Oh. But let me give you the situation. Paul Merton, who has often won, is in a third place with Graham Norton, who has won as well. But at the moment, Stephen Fry is out there, way ahead of them, and ahead of Stephen is Josie Lawrence. And Stephen, it's your turn to begin. And the subject is going out to bat. You have 60 seconds if you want it, starting now.
Oh, now, Nicholas, you've touched on one of my favourite fantasies. I'm at Lord's Cricket Ground. I'm in the long room, and I march through, past the members, open the little gate, and there are the fielders facing me. I've dreamt this so many times. I have to check my pads, the buckling. Of course, it's Velcro for the modern cricketers, but not for me. And the boots. Swing the bat in the air, look up, check the sky, blink a few times, make sure that I'm moving properly, and then I step forward and I pass the bowler who's throwing the ball from one hand to the other, and there's the wicket-keeper, there's an umpire at square leg. I step forward, I'm swallowing, I'm so excited, I really am. This is the moment I've been waiting for all my life. I'm opening the batting for England, for goodness sake. This is thrilling beyond peradventure. 10 to make and the match to win. Heaven's sake, Stephen, you can be a hero now. You're going out to bat for your country. There's no greater privilege, I would say. I'm almost in tears. This is the most thrilling thing that can happen to a human being, to play for their nation, their sovereign state.
Stephen. As a cricket enthusiast, I was with you every moment of that.
Well, we've been waiting for that call for many years, haven't we?
Yes. Well, let me say, Stephen was speaking as a whistle. We gained that extra point, and he has moved himself forward, but he didn't quite win. No. I'll give you the final scores if you're interested. Graham Norton and Paul Merton were equal almost in third place.
Almost, Nicholas. Almost.
Well, there's 1 point between you, so that's almost in just a minute terms. And they were just behind Stephen Fry, and Stephen was 2 points behind Josie Lawrence. So we say, Josie, you are our winner this week. A popular win. It only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 fine, humorous players of the game, Paul Merton, Josie Lawrence, Stephen Fry and Graham Norton. We thank Hayley Sterling, who's helped with the score, blown her whistle with great aplomb. We're grateful to his audience. We're indebted to our producer, Matt Strong. We're deeply indebted to the creator of this game, Ian Messiter. And so from the audience and from me, Nicholas Parsons, tune in again the same time when we play Just a Minute! Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world, but also to welcome to the programme 4 exciting, dynamic personalities who are going to pit their wits and their knowledge of language together as they try and speak on the subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And they are seated on my right, Paul Merton and Pam Ayres, and seated on my left, Zoe Lyons and Julian Clary. Please welcome all 4 of them! Beside me sits Hayley Sterling, who's going to help me keep the score, and she'll blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. Paul, will you begin the first round? And the subject here is the Sahara Desert. 60 seconds starting now.
As the vultures circled above me, I realised the caravan had left me behind. Lying face down in the sand, the birds of prey were flapping. I realised that my boat... Oh, too many realised.
Julian Challenge.
Oh. Yes, to realise.
Yes.
Yeah, you realised a bit too much,
Absolutely,
yes.
Yep.
Well, listen, Julian, you've got him with 49 seconds still available. Tell us something about the Sahara Desert, starting now.
Well, it goes on for miles, apparently. It's practically the size of America, and you're going to need flip-flops if you're going for a stroll across the Sahara Desert. Very, very hot.
Oh, yes.
It was too hot.
Yeah. 38 seconds available, Paul. The Sahara Desert, starting now.
I was looking for the buried treasure of Nicholas Parsons, a rogue pirate from the 17th century who got horribly lost on the Mediterranean and found himself in the Sahara Desert.
Zoe challenge.
Deviation, I think.
What?
Well, there aren't many pirates in the Sahara Desert, aren't there? Unless they've gone really
That's
off
why he was
course.
lost.
Oh, OK.
I think he was on a flight of fantasy that will allow and say that it was an incorrect challenge, but we'll lovely to hear from you.
I'll stay in touch.
Yes. Paul, there's 26 seconds available. The Sahara Desert starting now.
Footsteps appeared in the top of the earth, and I saw immediately that my arch enemy was right in front of me. A smell of camel.
Pam challenge.
Well, he had his face down in the sand.
I couldn't say sand because I said it before, so I said earth.
Well, I know, but if you had your face down in the sand, you wouldn't see your arch enemy in front of you.
I was actually lying on his burial place, and he was buried in a glass coffin.
A very good effort, Paul, but I'm not going to allow it.
I did make it up.
I think that was
true.
Right. Pam, a point to you, and there are 16 seconds available. The Sahara Desert starting now.
People may not realise that a great deal of wildlife exists in the Sahara Desert. In the hot, arid spaces in the central parts, these creatures tend to be small and to dwell in burrows far below the sand.
So, Pam Ayres, again speaking as the whistle went, gained the extra point. Julian, Clary, we come to you to begin, and the subject here is my fitness regime. I don't know whether you have one or not, but tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
I used to have a personal trainer called Luke, and he would pop me on some machine or other, and I would be puffing and panting while he told me his personal problems. And at the end of the hour...
Zoe challenge.
I think it was a repetition of personals.
Oh, it was?
Oh,
personal trainer,
and a personal trainer and personal problems, yes. So you've got 50 seconds still available. You tell us something about my fitness regime starting now.
I have a very relaxed fitness regime. It involves quite a lot of time sat on a sofa munching my way through various packets of crisps or biscuits. I do occasionally go out for a walk. That is about as much as I will do. I will take the dog with me. He wears a little fitness jacket and yoga pants and will enjoy the exercise immensely as we promenade along the coast where I live in Brighton, where you'll often see people out
Julian challenge.
Repetition of people.
Yes, there was her people before, and you came back with people, and Julian, you got back into the subject in which you started. My fitness regime, 24 seconds available, starting now.
If you'd peered through my bedroom window this morning, you would have seen me doing a downward dog. This is my fitness regime starting. I've given up on practically everything else. My emperor is much admired, and my legs can stretch from one wall to the other. I do the splits, morning, noon, and night.
So Julian, Clary was speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point, and Paul, we'd like you to begin the next round. And the subject is a flash in the pan. Will you talk on that subject if you can? 60 seconds if you want it, starting now.
I believe it's a reference to flintlocks. That particular gun had a pan attached where you put some gunpowder, and sometimes a flash in the pan would indicate that you'd had a boof, but no bullet had actually emerged from the end of the weapon. A flash in the pan, therefore, can be associated with people in show business have a one-off hit, and in the process of enjoying that solo success, burn themselves out. In the world of popular music, we can all think of the singles that were one-hit wonders. But if we delve into the worlds of light entertainment that I am more familiar with, it is much easier to say that I'm not involved as a flash in the pan with this show, because Just a Minute with Nicholas Parsons is celebrating its 50th year. So a flash in the pan is something that he definitely isn't. I can see that 3 people were moved by that news. The rest of you couldn't believe what I was talking about. A flash in the pan happens if you are particularly unpleasant in the kitchen and a chef decides to turn on you by using his cutlery.
So Paul Merton was speaking as a whistleblower and gained an extra point and a bonus point for not being interrupted. And Pam, we're with you to begin. The subject we've got now is a show business one, really. It's Elizabeth Taylor. Will you tell us something about that iconic actress starting now?
I was walking down Mill Street in Witney, Oxfordshire, in 1973 and approaching a set of traffic lights which had turned red. Accordingly, a queue of traffic had built up to my right.
And Julian's challenge?
Repetition of traffic.
Yes, there were traffic lights and
Oh,
traffic.
blow. Oh, well.
Yes.
That was a flash in the pan.
So, Julian, a correct challenge. You get a point for that, of course. You take over the subject. There are 45 seconds available. Elizabeth Taylor, starting now.
Elizabeth Taylor had fabulous violet-coloured eyes, and I know this for a fact because I sat next to her in the Dole office in Greenwich in about 1977. At least she said she was Elizabeth Taylor, and I was mesmerised. I was swimming, and you wouldn't have known that I was going to grow up to become a renowned homosexual because Elizabeth and I decided to go for tea and muffins round the corner, and the American accent was a little bit irritating, but I just didn't care. Her womanly ways beguiled me. Elizabeth Taylor, and I'll thank you not to laugh, and I stepped out, but the relationship was never consummated. She was constantly being pestered by a number of gentlemen callers.
So people are really going, aren't they? And so, Julian, you kept going till the whistle went. You gained an extra point for doing so. You got one for the interruption. You're equal with Paul in the lead, 2 points each. And Zoe, we'd like you to begin the next round. Oh, the subject now is hand sanitizer.
Right.
What a come down after Elizabeth Taylor.
Hand
sanitizer. Anyway, 60 seconds if you want it, starting now.
Hand sanitizer has become the item of choice of many women's handbags these days because of the germ-riddled world that we live in. And if you are aware of items that you are touching on a daily basis, be it public transport or out and about, maybe a newspaper, perhaps popping into a shop, you are indeed unwittingly becoming in contact with other people's nasties. You will often see hand sanitizers where they should be, in a hospital or a vet, in case you have to insert something into a patient or an animal. Where you'll also see hand sanitizers is round the buffet of a cruise ship, where...
Paul, yes.
Yes, well, it was a repetition of sanitizers.
Oh, yes.
Oh, that's... and very quickly the facade drops.
I thought she was so fluent. Why patronise her?
There's the regular player of the game. Pick up on these. I'm afraid it was in the singular originally, and you were going into the plural.
I know, I was getting so carried away. I was thinking...
But he did let you get away with 2 or 3 plurals.
Yes.
Yeah,
so,
right. So anyway,
I'll
Paul...
wash my hands of it.
Oh, I don't.
Yeah.
24 seconds are still available. You tell us something, and you've got a point, of course, for a correct challenge. Hand sanitizer starting now.
In this day and age, of course, having sanitary hands is a must. If you're visiting somebody in hospital or somewhere else where ill people congregate, like Fulham Football Club, then you must realise that hand sanitisation is very much at the top of the agenda. What they use is often a mixture of alcohol, sometimes soap, but essentially the main ingredient of every single hand sanitizer sold today is... I've no idea.
So Paul Merton was again speaking as a whistle went, gained that extra point, and he's taken the lead at the end of the round. And Pam, we're with you to begin again. And the subject now is thinking outside the box. An interesting phrase. Talk on it if you can, starting now.
In my home, I have stripped out all the shelves from my larder and put in there an enormous throne, fitted the walls with red damask, swags, tails and furbelows, and a vast chandelier and thick carpet where I sit and wait hopefully for poetic inspiration to arrive and travel down the conduit to my biro. In this way, I have thought of enormous enormously popular poems, including I Wish I'd Looked After Me Teeth and similar. I would not dream of writing outside the box because the box I have created is so wonderful and ornate.
Oh, Zoe, you've challenged.
It was an ever so slight hesitation on a very slight...
No, that was the chandelier.
It's a clanging of a chandelier.
No, I think we have to say that was a hesitation.
Well, I was running out of steam, so you're right.
So, Zoe, you've got him with 16 seconds to go. Thinking outside the box is a subject starting now.
Thinking outside of the box is something that one should do on a daily basis. Somebody who did not think outside of the box when visiting London was David Blaine.
Julian challenge.
Well, this is a little bit cheeky, but you said thinking outside of the box twice, and the subject is thinking outside the box. There's no... I know, well, I thought I hadn't said anything for a while.
Right. Julian, we'd like to hear from you on the subject anyway. 7 seconds are still available. Thinking outside the box, starting now.
Thinking outside the box is one of those dreary phrases that businessmen use when they're at some boring meeting
So you finished as the whistle went. Gained that extra point for doing so. You've taken the lead, one ahead of Paul Merton. And Julian Clary, we're back with you to begin. A lovely subject now. An English country garden. There's the subject, Julian. Talk on it if you can. 60 seconds if you need it. Starting now.
Lavender, delphiniums, phlox, perhaps the occasional bit of dog mess. That's what you'll find in my English country garden, where I lay on a sun lounger from the months of July to September, and I wouldn't have it any other way. An English country garden, you see, is something that I can get out there in my overalls and dig up personally. Sometimes the general public leer at me through the white picket fence, but I don't care. I've got my hand sanitizer with me, should they lunge inadvertently and touch me. But they often don't know it's me because I'm so rough and ready when I'm in my English country garden. I wear a peak cap, I don't shave, and I drink tap water. I rarely deodorise. It's all about...
Right, Pam, challenge.
Deviation. I think Julian's telling us all about his hygiene routine and not enough about the delphiniums.
I think you're right, Pam.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
Yes, he'd gone on to his sanitation rather than description of the garden. So, Pam, you take the subject over. There are 10 seconds available. An English country garden starting now.
Imagine a pergola drifting with yellow laburnums and beautiful purple wisteria.
Julian challenge.
Don't have anything yellow in my garden. I don't hold with yellow plants.
So what is your challenge within the rules of just a minute?
Well... just made me feel peculiar, the idea of a yellow laburnum.
No, an incorrect challenge, I think. So, Pam, you've still got 3 seconds if you want it. An English country garden starting now.
And a tranquil pool full of goldfish and
So Pam Ayres is speaking the whistle. Wang gained another point. She's catching up on Julian Clary, and he's 1 point behind Paul Merton in the lead. And, Paul, it's your turn to begin again. The subject now, black and white. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
The early days of cinematography and photography, the images were essentially black and white, and people were amazed that even though there was no natural colour in these pictorial demonstrations, there was nevertheless shades of black and white. When we think of those words, black and white, we think,
Julian, you challenge first?
Repetition of think.
No, actually, no, because I didn't complete the word, so hard luck.
He was about to repeat.
But what you were saying was leading to hesitation if it wasn't there. Anyway,
absolutely.
Julian, there are 42 seconds. You tell us something about black and white starting now.
I've got black and white tiles in my kitchen, and they're such a success. Do you know, I've gone crazy, and I've also got black and white.
Zoe challenge.
2 gots.
Yes, I've also got.
Also gots.
So, Zoe, well listened. 35 seconds are still available. You tell us something about black and white starting now.
Some of my favourite things in the world are black and white. I very much enjoy a humbug mint. They come in black and white and are a delicious...
Pam challenge.
Our humbugs are brown.
No! That's not a humbug.
I think you're right, Pam, yes. I used to have humbugs when I was young.
Black and white, aren't they, humbugs?
No, they're golden colour.
We've split the room here with this. Who knew?
Occasionally I have to give the benefit of the doubt, and it goes to you, Pam. Black and white. 28 seconds available, Pam, on black and white, starting now.
When I think of black and white, I think of those two... Oh, blow.
Zoe?
Two thinks?
Yes,
I did.
Two thinks in brown, Pam.
Blow.
It's a fiendishly difficult game. 24 seconds are still available, Zoe. Black and white, starting now.
Some of my favourite animals are black and white. There is, of course, the penguin, and I often look at that particular bird and think, what do you smell of, fishy or bird-like? It's a mystery to me, it really is. Then, of course, we have the zebra. Is it a horse or is it a mule? Who knows?
Oh, Paul Challenge.
It's a zebra. I think when you said nobody knows, I think it's... I think somebody wrote it down once.
It's not my forte.
Because of Paul's logic, I think we have to give him the benefit of the doubt and say, Paul, black and white is the subject. You have 8 seconds starting now.
It reminds me of one of the first jokes I ever heard. What's black and white and red all over? The answer, of course, was newspaper, which much amused the 8-year-old...
So Paul Merton was then speaking as a whistle when he gained that extra point and has increased his lead at the end of that round. And Pam, we're back with you to begin, and the subject is May Day. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
How I enjoy a country May Day, in my sturdy boots and crinoline, dancing round the maypole, interweaving the ribbons that cascade from the top, accompanied by the Morris men with their sturdy sticks.
Zoe Challenge.
Two sturdies.
Sturdy boots.
Sturdy boots and sturdy sticks.
Right. So honest, Pam.
You need them in the country, though, don't you? You can't have anything flimsy. It needs to be...
So Zoe, correct challenge. 43 seconds are still available. Tell us something about May Day, starting now.
May Day is the signal that something is wrong on a plane, and you will often hear people saying, May Day, May Day, May...
sorry. I'm wrong. Sorry.
No, just to remind our listeners,
Zoe.
you can repeat the subject on the card.
I know, I'm sorry.
But there is a limit to how many times you can repeat it.
I was going for 40 seconds. I think I'd have been pushing it, to be honest.
I think you didn't push it there. No, I gave you the benefit of the doubt, and 36 seconds to tell us more about May Day, starting now.
The 1st of May is a glorious day when the spring arrives and the birds are in the trees, butterflies are fluttering about and flowers are blooming left, right and centre. And it is usually piddling down with rain at the same time because it is May in Britain and it is a difficult time of the year. You assume it's going to be warm and you'll get a bit of a tan, perhaps be able to wear a short or a vest top or even a flip-flop. But oh no, not in this country, not come May.
Oh, Paul Challenge.
Repetition May.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
And there are 7 seconds still available, Paul. May Day, starting now.
The message went across on the airwaves. S.O. ditto. Somebody was in trouble. What could I do? I realised I have to launch my ship, helicopter and boat.
Paul Merton, speaking as a whistle away, gained an extra point, has increased his lead at the end of the round. Zoe Lyons, we're back with you to begin. Fly fishing.
Oh, yeah. Big hobby of mine.
Fly fishing is the subject. Try and keep going for 60 seconds if you can, starting now.
Fly fishing is, of course, the ultimate hunting sport because before you can fish, you have to catch the fly, and that is very difficult. Once you have caught said insect...
Julian Challenge.
Oh, was it repetition of caught?
Caught and catch.
Catch and caught.
Oh, don't clap on your own, please. Well, I wasn't the only one that buzzed. Who else buzzed?
I might have buzzed myself. I'm not very good at this.
What's your challenge, then?
But it was Julian that challenged me.
I'm trying to help you, Zoe.
Right, my challenge was that I was doing rather well and I got overexcited, so I was deviating from actually not doing as well as I normally do.
Can you take points away?
I can't give it to you on that basis, Zoe. If you'd said repetition, I'd given you a point and you'd carried on. But I know what I do. You challenged, didn't you?
Julian
I said repetition, but you said I was wrong. How can she be right if I was wrong?
Julian, you have the subject. 50 seconds. Fly fishing, Julian, starting now.
What can be nicer than finding a little nook by a river and getting your rod out?
Zoe challenge.
Julian asked what could be nicer, and I was saying keeping the subject that was legally yours for the duration.
I don't know what you're talking about, Zoe, but... Julian, an incorrect challenge. You have another point. I have fly fishing. 46 seconds, starting now.
I take a deck chair with me and sandwiches when I go fly fishing, and I really enter...
Oh, poor challenge.
Hesitation, sadly.
There was a
because I know that
hesitation,
Julian
yeah.
enjoys his fly fishing, and lots of people could have taken notes.
40 seconds are still available, Paul.
40?
40 seconds. Fly fishing in 40 seconds if you want it, starting now.
I don't want it now.
Zoe, you challenge.
I want it back.
You've got it back. Hesitation, so there are 38 seconds still available, Zoe.
I've chipped 2 seconds off it.
Fly fishing is back with you, starting now.
There are various fish that you can catch when you are fly fishing. The most common, of course, is the river trout, which is a beautiful insect.
Julian challenge.
A beautiful insect. Nobody knows whether a zebra is a horse or a mule. Fish are insects. Has David Attenborough completely wasted his life?
But you have to realise, Paul, as you wouldn't already know it after all these years, it's a very difficult game.
Yeah,
and you
but
get confused and
it's difficult
overwhelmed.
enough without creating new species.
And you can get very emotional as well.
Absolutely.
And so he did. Put yourself together, Zoe.
Sorry.
You have the subject. 30 seconds available. Fly fishing, starting now. Julian challenge.
What about her hesitation?
Whose hesitation?
Zoe's.
You challenged her for hesitation, did you?
Before she got overexcited, she hesitated.
We had the insect drama.
That's right. And you're quite right, Julian.
Yes.
I'm glad you drew my attention to it.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
29 seconds for you. On fly fishing, starting now.
It's all in the wrist action, in my opinion, and I have mastered this over the years. I've caught all manner of whoppers, and I put them in a net, and I talk to them. I give them names. Jeffrey I caught last Sunday, and when I've finished my afternoon, I release them back into the stream.
Pam challenge.
I thought there was a hesitation.
It was a hesitation, Pam. Got him with the correct challenge. Another point to you. And there are 10 seconds available. Fly fishing starting now.
How I love to stand in the test or the itchin in my waist-high waders, flicking my feather-like line over the dark...
So Pam Ayres was speaking as the whistle when gained that extra point. She has moved forward. She's still in third place with Zoe Lyons. So let me give you the scores as we move into the final round. Pam Ayres and Zoe Lyons are equal in third place. They're only 1 point behind Julian Clary, and he's 2 or 3 points behind Paul Merton, who's still in the lead. And Julian, it is your turn to begin. Sir Walter Raleigh. Will you tell us something about Sir Walter Raleigh in this game, starting now?
He had a lot of hats, did Walter, and he was very good chums for a while with Elizabeth I. But, you know, in those days, they would fall out over nothing, and it was something to do with one of his invasions to some continent. He came back, and she wasn't happy with him, so she put him in the tower.
Zoe challenge.
No, I think it was an overzealous challenge. There were 2 she's, but that's probably overzealous, isn't it? Mind you, he got away with 2 ofs earlier, so... And it's... You know, I'd have let that go, but what with the brown humbug and everything, it sort of riled me a little bit.
Darling, what are you muttering about?
Am I allowed 2 she's? Is that repetition, or is that being particularly picky?
I've glazed over.
It's been a bit too keen, actually.
Okay.
But it was correct.
Yeah.
So I have to give it to you.
Okay.
And tell you that you've got 42 seconds if you need it on Sir Walter Raleigh, starting now.
Sir Walter Raleigh is to blame for a lot of this country's ill health today because of the potato and cigarette. People are now very much overweight as a result of Sir Walter Raleigh finding the potato.
Paul, you challenge first.
Well, sort of hesitation, deviation, and a loud sort of noise.
Yes.
And the repetition of the potato.
Yeah.
Right. Sir Walter Raleigh's with you, Paul. And there are 31 seconds available, starting now.
Nobody really knows if an elephant is a deck chair or a moose.
Julian, you
really
challenge.
knows.
Well, it was a sort of suicidal pause.
A major hesitation. Pause for comic effect. Unfortunately, It doesn't work in just a minute.
Thank you very much.
A point to Julian. 26 seconds. Sir Walter Raleigh, Julian, starting now.
Of course, Sir Walter brought the first bicycle back from Mexico and are still going today. His company, Raleigh, are very, very popular, and I ride one myself. Sir Walter Raleigh is often forgotten in history lessons. People know very little about him, but I am here to fill in the gaps. He once took his coat off and threw it in a puddle for someone to walk over.
So Julian Clary was speaking as the whistle weighing gained that extra point and has moved forward. There's Pam Ayres and Zoe Lyons, both equal in third place. They were only 2 or 3 points behind Julian Clary, and he was 3 points behind Paul Merton. So we say, Paul, this week you are our winner. So it only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 fine, delightful, humorous players of the game, Paul Merton, Pam Ayres, Zoe Lyons and Julian Clary. I thank Hayley Sterling for helping with the score, blowing the whistle with such style when the 60 seconds have elapsed. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. We're grateful to our producer, Matt Strong, and we're grateful to this lovely audience here. From the audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, thank you, and tune in again at the same time when we take to the air and we play Just a Minute! Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world, and to welcome to the programme 4 exciting, talented performers, and they are seated on my right, Paul Merton and Ross Noble, and seated on my left, Gyles Brandreth and Fern Britton. Will you please welcome all 4 of them? Beside me is Hayley Sterling. She's going to help me with the score. She'll run the stopwatch and blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And Fern, we're with you to begin the show this week with The Early Bird. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
I used to be the early bird. A long time ago, I worked on BBC Breakfast Time. I'd have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, which was a ghastly time of day, and I would sit in the bath and cry because I had a horrible boss and I didn't want to go in to see him. But within 20 minutes, I would have pulled myself together, got myself out of the thing with water in, and jumped into the taxi that was waiting for me. When I got to work, everybody was there as well, yawning and half asleep. And I'm making myself...
So,
bless
Gyles,
you.
There was a bit of hesitation.
Yes,
Gyles, don't be kind, it's true.
Gyles, that is a correct challenge. There are still 31 seconds available. Ooh. The early bird starting now.
I'm very blessed in that I live adjacent to the Wildfowl and Wetlands Trust in southwest London at a place called Barnes, and therefore an early bird greets me every day. Actually, it's a screamer, which is the name of a bird that comes from South America. A quiet plumage of a greyish kind, and yet a voice like a corncrake. The cry of this early bird disturbs my sweet slumbers. There I am, lying, dreaming, it must be said, of Fern Britton in her glory days when she presented...
Ross, your challenge.
That was borderline sexual harassment. You know.
Also, I didn't like you saying it was my glory days, because I am...
I thought that was very ungallant.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's offence
and... Ross, we love the interruption, but have your challenge...
Deviation from all BBC HR regulations.
That's a point to you, Ross, and you take over the subject because there's only 1 second to go.
I can't believe it.
The early bird starting now.
The early bird is a...
So Ross Noble was then speaking as the whistle went, gains an extra point, and Gyles, it's your turn to begin. Gyles, the subject is what we do always at the beginning of any show, warming up. will you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
Warming up. How now, brown cow? Moo! Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. These are just two of the vocal exercises I perform when warming up. I don't have a exercise class to go to. I have a personal trainer, a young Latvian girl I met in a nail bar in King's Cross, and she has introduced me to the most extraordinary warming up physical exercises. We begin with the head, turning the neck and twisting it most sensually and excitingly. Then we go to the shoulders. Up they go and back and down. On then to the stomach, pulled in and let loose. Then onto the lower limbs. And how exciting it is.
Ross, challenge.
Repetition of then on to.
Then on to, yes.
Oh,
yes.
That was a challenge just in time as well.
Anyway, you had a correct challenge, Ross, so you get a point for a correct challenge, and you take over the subject, and there are 11 seconds available. Warming up is the subject, starting now.
Warming up is something that a studio audience needs to have done to them when a television programme is made. People don't like to admit it in the industry, but they have a warm-up man who is...
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point, and it was Ross Noble. And Paul, we'd like you to begin the next round, and the subject now is the bush. Tell us something about...
Come on.
Please.
You're better than that.
This is Radio 4.
The bush, Paul. 60 seconds if you need it, starting now.
I'd been trailing the giant kangaroo for about 15 months. First of all, he hitched up in a hotel in Sydney, disguised as a boot boy. But I knew his real trick. As he headed for the bush that night, I realised that he had many different disguises. One of them was Helen Shapiro.
Was he by any chance hopping back to happiness?
Yes. Helen Shapiro.
Gyles, you challenge first.
It was hesitation brought on by an apoplexy.
Brought on by Helen Shapiro.
Yeah.
A correct challenge, Gyles. There are still 42 seconds available. The bush, starting now.
The bush I reverence most is George W., who always said the trouble with the French is they don't have a word for entrepreneur. Other members of the Bush clan that I admire include Kate Bush and the foxy one known as Basil Bush.
Fern challenge.
Well, Basil Bush, he doesn't
Basil
exist.
Brush.
Who's Basil Bush? Is Basil Brush?
Basil Bush is Kate Bush's younger brother.
No, he's not.
I'm sorry. I am so sorry. He went to Australia, hence the Basil.
I'm going to be on your side,
Thank
Fern,
you.
because you haven't played the game much before.
No,
and
hardly playing it now.
I'm sure he did mean Basil Brush.
Okay.
He's wriggling out of it there.
Yes, he did, didn't he? Yes.
So, Fern, you have a correct challenge. You have the subject. 24 seconds. The bush, starting now.
The bush I'm thinking about now is one that is a box, and it has a blight on it. And this beautiful bush I have topiarised into something incredible. It now is a kettle, and in the wind it blows and tips as if it's pouring out hot water. Now, this bush, as I said, is got an illness. It's spread by tiny little spiders that spin their webs and poison...
So Fern Britton was then speaking as the whistle when gained that extra point. And she's moved forward. She's in third place, ahead of Paul Merton, but just behind Gyles Brandreth, and Ross Noble still in the lead. And Gyles, it's your turn to begin. Can you tell us something about Beyoncé, which is the subject on the card? Starting now.
As it happens, I can tell you a great deal about Beyoncé Giselle Knowles Carter because I'm familiar with her. She had a difficult relationship with her own father, and when we met, she immediately recognized me as a dad substitute. Jay-Z himself welcomed me into the bosom of their family, and we now get on famously. By the time this program is broadcast, she will probably have had the twins that she has been expecting since February, and I'm proud to tell you...
Ross challenge.
Twins, repetition of baby.
I think it's only fair to give you a bonus point because we enjoyed the interruption. But, Gyles, you were interrupted, so you've still got the subject. 32 seconds for Beyoncé, starting now.
Beyoncé said to me that her child will indeed be Destiny's little tot. And
Well, that's deviation because it's children.
Yeah. Mentioned twins.
twins.
You saw that one child. Yeah.
One child.
Yeah.
What's happened to the other one?
Yeah.
they come out one at a time. One's going to be a boy named after me, and the other one is going to be a girl. The name has not yet been decided. As I would have explained, I'm pitching for it to be called Fern.
Yes.
I don't know what you're talking about. Right. I think your challenge was correct, Ross.
Thanks.
And you have... well, Chris, twins and one child. Ross, 27 seconds available. Tell us something about Beyoncé, starting now.
If you like it, then you should have put a ring on it. That is one of the things that Beyoncé said. She was actually at an agricultural show. At the time, she had a prize bull, and she was encouraging people to lead it away. But unfortunately, there was nowhere to put a tether. So she invited the farmers up to the bovine creature, and they took it away as Jay-Z was...
So Ross Noble was then speaking as the whistle went, and he's leapt forward. He's increased his lead at the end of the round. He's way ahead of Gyles, Brandreth, Fern, Britton and Paul Merton in that order. And Fern, we're with you to begin. Oh. And the subject is now the Himalayas. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
The Himalayas is, of course, a famous mountain range somewhere in Tibet. But the Himalayas I'm thinking about is a boarding house on the southwest coast of Cornwall. It's called the Himalayas because it's tall and narrow and has several floors of bedrooms going up and up. It was built in the...
Gyles,
yes, sirree. Who was that?
It was Gyles.
Up and up.
Yes,
up and...
yes.
So, Gyles, you got in first. There's still 43 seconds. Will you tell us something about the Himalayas in this game, if you can, starting now?
Indeed, when Beyoncé and I went mountain trekking in the Himalayas, it was an extraordinary trip because we discovered the Yeti. In the Himalayas, the most extraordinary creature is this abominable snowman, who you will encounter if you go really high up into the mountain range, breathing deeply, feeling the extraordinary ozone and the magic of the Himalayas. There you expect to see extraordinary film stars.
Oh, yes, Fern, challenge first.
Yes, repetitive extraordinary, I believe.
Yeah. Fern, you've got 16 seconds if you want it. The Himalayas starting now.
The Himalayas...
Paul, you got in first.
Yeah, I just wasn't ready.
Bit of a hesitation, sadly.
Yeah. Sorry, I just wasn't ready. My mind
Paul,
was
you
on
got
other
in with
things.
14 seconds to go. Tell us something about the Himalayas starting now.
The Sardines lived next door, and on the other side was the Himalayas. There was Tommy Himalaya, Sarah Himalaya, and various people like that. The mountains themselves are magnificent. Once you've climbed up the first peak, you look towards the others and you say to yourself, I am...
Right. So Paul Merton was speaking as the whistle went. He's caught up with Fern Britton. They're both training Gyles Brandreth, and he's training Ross Noble in that sequence. And Ross, we're back with you to begin. The subject now, Dutch courage. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
The finest display of Dutch courage was the little boy who put his finger in the dike. It was leaking and he approached it, and luckily he had very, very I'm an idiot. Very. Come on, Noble, lift your... Sorry, go on.
Gyles, you challenge first.
Repetition.
Very.
Very.
Yes. Dutch courage is with you, Gyles. 49 seconds starting now.
Dutch courage is one of those expressions like going Dutch, double Dutch, Dutch uncle, that dates from our Anglo-Dutch wars of the 17th century. We turned against these Dutch people and made rude jokes about them, and it transformed our language. When William of Orange came over, all that began to change.
Paul challenge.
The grammar disappeared a bit. All that begin to change. William Orange came to fall. It all went a bit piratical. Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean, but was it a hesitation or a deviation?
It was deviation from the English as it had spoken.
No, I think it was a hesitation, but it's not
absolutely.
that. So I'll give you the benefit of the doubt.
OK, thank you.
And I'll try and redress the balance if I can later.
That's very kind of you, Nicholas.
So a point to Paul. 28 seconds still available, Paul. Dutch courage starting now.
On the outskirts of Amsterdam, I tracked the kangaroo down. He had many guises. One of them was as a Dutch seaman. He would no longer appeared as Helen Shapiro. Instead, he created this character where he had the courage of a lion, the deception of a gazelle, and the sheer chutzpah of a buffalo. He was an animal that I could love. Indeed, I did marry for several years, and we lived very happily in the Norfolk Broads. But how long is this I'm talking about here? How long was that for?
And so you will get a point for speaking as the whistle went. And let's see, what is the score at the end of that round? So, Paul, you've let Paul. You're just ahead of Fern, Britton, and just away behind Gyles, Brandreth and Ross Noble. And that, Paul, we're back with you to begin.
Yes.
The subject now is picnics. Tell us something about picnics in this game, starting now.
Perhaps one of those things that's better in the concept rather than the actual practice. It seems to me that when we went on picnics as a child, wasps, ants, other flying insects would come towards you and invade your space, dip into the fruit salad if we were lucky to...
Gyles, challenge.
Wasps, wasps, what was the other one?
I don't know, you can tell me.
Flying ants.
Insects. They do fly, do they?
They do. There is a day in the year when all ants...
So what's your challenge?
My challenge was that he mentioned flying animals and ants don't fly, but Fern, who is a countrywoman, has explained to me that there is one day in the year where apparently one ant was once seen flying.
There is a day in the year when all the ants grow wings and fly around a bit. No, but it's true.
It's true.
I saw one on a flight.
Thank you.
Trying to struggle out of it.
Yes, he did.
And I saw one on a flight to Glasgow once.
Yes.
Gyles, your incorrect challenge. Paul, you were speaking.
Yes.
You've still got picnics.
Yes.
48 seconds.
48 seconds.
Picnics is with you still starting now.
You put together the hamper, there's the champagne glasses, perhaps bottles of the particular liquid I've just mentioned, all lying around neatly. But when you get to your location, it's always not as good as you thought it was going to be. Somehow eating indoors or consuming outdoors is a very nice...
Ross, challenge.
Repetition of outdoors.
Did I say outdoors
No,
before?
it's indoors and outdoors. They're one word. Indoors is one word, and outdoors is another word.
No, I thought... No, he said outdoors before, didn't
I
he?
might have said outdoors before.
Ah, yes,
Yes,
of course,
outdoors.
right at the beginning,
Yeah,
of course,
yeah.
yes, indeed.
I'm sorry.
Well, thank you for reminding me, right. Ross, the correct challenge. 30 seconds available on picnics starting now.
If you go down to the woods today, that's the start of the teddy bears picnic. I think that would be a horrific thing to see. The teddy... Oh, teddy God, it's because Gyles is looking at me. As soon as I said teddy bears, I felt his eyes burning into my soul. As soon as I said it, I went,
I feel quite protective about teddy bears.
Yeah.
I know you do.
He repeated teddy.
Right, 21 seconds. A correct challenge, Gyles. Picnics starting now.
I want to tell you about one of the greatest picnics ever, when Beyoncé, Miley Cyrus, Fern, Britton and I got together on the special day in the year when ants
Fern,
fly.
Britton challenge.
No, we didn't.
Oh, we can all dream. And I know you've been in therapy since trying to wipe it from your memory, but it was a marvellous, marvellous day.
Was it?
Yeah.
I don't recall it.
No, I know.
No, because he was deviating.
He
Well,
was. Yes, that's right.
Fern, you have a correct challenge. And you have 12 seconds, if you want it, on picnics starting now.
I had it and I couldn't remember his name. I was going to have a lovely old chat there about Boo Boo and Yogi Bear and Mr. Ranger.
Giles, you're sitting next to her.
Well, it was hesitation because her conscience overcame her.
I will give you a point for a correct challenge.
Thank you.
But Fern's only played the game once before.
Yes.
So I'm going to give
That's
you the
not how
benefit
it
of the
seemed to me
doubt.
on that picnic, I can tell you.
Thank you.
11 seconds. Picnics starting now.
The most romantic picnic I was ever taken on was many years ago when I was only 17. And my boyfriend at the time packed a picnic in his car and drove us down to the river.
So Fern Britton again speaking of the whistle win, gained that extra point, and she's moved forward. She's still in fourth place, but she has moved. No, she's only 1 point behind Paul Merton. She's 3 or 4 points behind Gyles Brandreth, who's 1 point behind our leader, who is still Ross Noble. And Gyles, we're back with you to begin, and the subject now is Over the Moon. Tell us something about that phrase in this game, starting now.
When Nicholas's wife told me she was leaving him to shack up with me, I was over the moon. Until until my own darling nudged me in the ribs and said, "You are dreaming again. No one is going to abandon Parsons."
Wait, was it repetition of Parsons?
No, Nicholas first time, Parsons second.
Nicholas.
Oh, of course it was right, yeah.
Well tried, but it's an incorrect challenge. So Gyles has another point, and he has the subject over the moon starting now.
Hey, diddle, the cat and the fiddle, the cow jumped over the moon. This expression, over the moon, is as ancient as the nursery rhyme and goes back almost 1,000 years. There is a reference to it in the works of Geoffrey Chaucer, and later we find Shakespeare uses this phrase in 3 separate plays, one a comedy, another a tragedy, and then a history drama. Over the moon is a beautiful trilogy of letters that creates magic and a sense of excitement. Over the moon, one would be.
Paul challenge.
Over the moon is a trilogy of letters.
Yes?
What is... Well, it's possibly a trilogy of words, but even now I wouldn't say it was a trilogy, because a trilogy would assume that there was a connection.
You're right there. It's a trilogy of words.
Yes.
3 words, not letters.
I was referring to the correspondence in which this was contained.
Well tried, Gyles.
Well, you've got 3 letters.
Yeah. Stamped during different reigns.
Well tried, Gyles. They all try hard. But, Paul, correct challenge. 15 seconds still available. You have another point, and you have over the moon starting now.
Unfortunately, Apollo 8 had too much fuel on board, went past the moon and had to come back again. This was not known at the time because they kept it quiet. On the dark side of the moon, Pink Floyd produced this magnificent album.
Fern challenge.
Well, that's deviation. That's talking about the dark side of the
Yeah,
moon now,
absolutely.
rather than the over the moon.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Totally.
A point to you, Fern, for a correct challenge.
Yes.
Over the moon, and there are only
Yes.
4 seconds available.
Oh, dear.
Starting now.
Over the moon was what I
Challenge.
felt
Paul.
when I was...
Deviation.
No.
No, she started straight away. That was the deviation. You get it differently.
Well, I like to keep you on your toes. You never know.
Enjoyed that interruption. But, Fern, you weren't interrupted, so you get another point.
Jolly D.
And you have 3 seconds to go.
Excellent.
Over the moon, starting now.
Over the Moon is a wonderful book that I read to my children when they were small.
So, at the end of that round, it's all very equal. Fern Britton's doing very well. She's equal in 3rd place. No, in 2nd place with Paul Merton, because in the lead equal are Giles Brandreth and Ross Noble. Oh. And only 2 points separate all of them.
Oh.
Right. And Fern, we're with you to begin now.
No.
And the subject is tissues. Tell us something about tissues in just a minute, starting now.
Tissues are very, very... Oops.
That could almost be the slogan. They're very, very... Whoops.
Hey, Ross.
Well, she's nicking my axe. She's just saying the same words over and over again.
He's the king of repetition.
Exactly.
I said he's the king of repetition.
How dare you? How dare you?
Yeah, you got in on that
How
one.
dare you?
So, Ross, great challenge. Very, very. There are 57 seconds on tissues with you, starting now.
Tissues can come in man size. They don't do women size, because that would be...
Paul challenge.
Oh, I don't know. Man size and size, women's size.
It's hyphenated, so we give you the benefit of the doubt.
Benefit of doubt to Ross.
you.
Oh, to me? Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, we did Chuckle Brothers.
Yeah.
To you.
So, Paul, great challenge. 51 seconds still available. Tell us something about tissues, starting now.
As I looked up at the sodden eyes of my Labrador, I realised that what the 2 of us had been together, no tissue could ever eradicate. We'd been stuck on a raft just off the coast of Wolverhampton when we realised that the monsoon...
A Gyles challenge.
We had a very bad map.
Paul anticipated my challenge, which was deviation from the laws of geography. Wolverhampton, at any stage in the history of this island, has never been on the coast.
You're absolutely right.
Oh, we've cleared that up then.
So, Gyles, a point to you and 38 seconds available. Tissues are starting now.
A tissue we all fall down. A quintet of words that dates back 1,000 years. Tissues were not invented at the time of King Richard III, but that is when the expression originated. Tissues, as far as I'm concerned, are enormously useful because I am somewhat labile. When when confronted with a moment when one is not doing as well as one would hope in just a minute?
Ross, challenge.
As one would hope.
One would. Yeah. Well listened, Ross. Correct challenge. Good. 13 seconds are still available. Tell us something about tissues starting now.
Sneezing an enormous explosive snot out of the front of your face can sometimes send your entire head flying backwards as if you were going at Mach 45 in a rocket-propelled...
And we are just moving into the final round. I'll give you the situation. It's very close. Fern Britton, who's she's only played the game once before. She's trailing just only in fourth place, one behind Paul Merton, who is two behind Giles Brandreth, and he's one behind Ross Noble, who's still in the lead. And it is Ross's turn to begin. And the subject now, Thomas Edison. There's silence. An ominous silence in the audience. 60 seconds, Ross, if you need it, starting now.
There is a story that Thomas Edison once electrocuted an elephant. This is totally and utterly incorrect. He did, however, own a film company which would send out crews to do documentaries of unusual events. In Coney Island, there was one of these majestic beasts which had been very, very...
You were trying to avoid the elephant in the room.
What is wrong with me tonight?
I think you're a bit thick.
Rossi gives us great fun. We enjoy it. But Paul, you challenge first.
Yes.
Very right.
Yes,
33 seconds available.
Sorry, how many?
33.
Thank you.
Tell us something about Thomas Edison, starting now.
He claimed to invent a lot of inventions that actually weren't invented by him.
Olivia Giles, challenge.
Repetition of invented.
He claimed lots of
He
inventions.
claimed to have invented a lot of things which were actually not invented.
Oh, did I say invented twice?
Invented twice. The word invented was repeated. Repetition.
A lot of inventions.
Yes.
No,
he said he claimed to have invented a lot of inventions which
Order,
weren't invented.
Order!
I think it was
sorry.
inventions invented.
Yeah,
that's what I thought I did,
Yes.
No.
Well, listen,
He claimed to
Giles.
have invented inventions that he hadn't invented. Yeah.
No. Is anybody recording this?
I heard that.
He did repeat invented. You're quite right, Giles. Well listened. 29 seconds. Thomas Edison with you, starting now.
The Edisons lived alongside the bushes and near the Sardines. It was a curious road. Thomas, or Tommy, as I thought of him.
Paul challenge.
Well, I just think this is a bogus speech. I think he's got this subject under false pretences, and I really have no interest in what he has to say on the matter. Especially when the Sardine family turned up.
So have you a challenge within the rules of just a minute?
No, just reflections on life, really.
Give him a bonus point because we enjoyed that. Giles, you were interrupted. You get a point. And you have 21 seconds. Thomas Edison starting now.
The great Thomas Edison is credited with 1,093 patents at the United States office that looks after that kind of thing. The most unusual of which, believe it or not, is the rubber that goes on the end of a pencil. He inaugurated this towards the end of his career when he was trying to break records as having been the person who'd created more novelties in our time.
So, Giles Brandreth then, speaking as a whistle wind, gained that extra point, and I will give you the final score. Fern Britton, who's only played once before, came in a very fine fourth place, which she was very good, very good. You were only 2 or 3 points behind Paul Merton. And only 2 points ahead was Ross Noble, and only 1 point ahead of him was Giles Brandreth. They all gave such value, but as you have 1 more point than anybody else, Giles, we'll say you are the winner this week. Only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 fine players of the game, Paul Merton, Ross Noble, Fern Britton and Giles Brandreth. I thank Hayley Sterling, who's helped me with the score. She blows her whistle with such delicacy. We thank our producer, Matt Strong. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're deeply indebted to this lovely audience here. From them, lovely audience, and from me, Nicholas Parsons, goodbye. And tune in again at the same time when we play Just a Minute!